keeping this in mind, I have sent my resignation to the Prime Minister. And all of this is happening, Divya and Vasudha, in the backdrop of what we have seen over the last 6 days. Today also, we are getting reports of clashes that have taken place close to Jantar Mantar. Some elements, antisocial elements, which, by the way, even the organizers at Jantar Mantar are saying that some antisocial elements seem to have tried to take advantage. Remember, on the 22nd, when violence had broken out close to Jantar Mantar in the inner circle of Connaught Place, at that time, Abhijit Dipke had come out and said, these are not our people. Some people are trying to take advantage of the situation, and which is why clashes like that took place. Today, we saw a replay of that also happening, not just in Delhi, but in Chhapra as well, in Bihar. Yesterday, it happened in Kolkata, where students were protesting and suddenly some antisocial elements tried to take advantage of it. Some journalists were heckled and injured, and now FIRs have been filed against those antisocial elements. The point is that across cities, yes, many people came out on the streets, but then in the guise, or rather trying to take advantage or hiding behind the genuine concerns of genuine students, some people tried to also create trouble, and the minister mentions it in his resignation and says, I took responsibility, but what I do not want is that our students have to stay on the streets, and some people using them as a shield try and create trouble. Let me bring in Aishwarya Jain as well. Aishwarya, already the main reason has been sort of laid out by the minister, by Dharmendra Pradhan, in his letter, in the tweet that he has put out announcing his resignation. But how did it all come about? Tell us the timeline of how eventually the decision was taken that Dharmendra Pradhan should resign. Aishwarya, over to you.
Well, at first instance, it was the two-member delegation of CJP who went to the residence of JP Nadda and had stated very firmly that their demand is resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. The government seems positive on the other two demands, and they stated that the compensation and also the demand of no legal action against the students who are protesting in Jantar Mantar and who protested in Parliament will not be taken at all. But on the part of Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation, it was the government which was waiting, and the government taking simultaneously other steps as well in terms of implementing the fast-track courts in the country, bringing the amendment bill in the Parliament, and also having a discussion in the Parliament. But yesterday, when the second round of talks happened, where I am reporting from the Constitution Club of India, it was again stated by the CJP delegation that our demand still remains the same. First, there should be resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, and later the talks can happen, or else we will give a national call for the protest all across the country. 24 hours ultimatum was given yesterday, and just few hours before today's talks here at the CCI, the resignation has come forward. But what will happen from here on is something that the government sources have clearly told us. As I, earlier stated, and NewsX and NDTV clearly earlier broke this particular news that Sonam Wangchuk, while the two ministers went to meet him, it was conveyed to him to urge the protesters, the students at Jantar Mantar, to have trust in the government. And ultimately, the dialogue here of Sonam Wangchuk and the students will be taking place this evening, is what the government sources are stating. Sonam Wangchuk will be appealing to call off the entire protest at Jantar Mantar. On Monday, the government will be bringing up the amendment bill in the Parliament, and that will be passed according to the discussions and the demand that the opposition parties will take to make certain amendments in that as well. And certainly the decision of the government to have fast-track courts implemented will also be done. So yes, the first priority would be to reach out to the delegation by just this evening to ask them to completely vacate Jantar Mantar, and to also appeal to the students who are protesting nationwide to call off their protest so that things can come back to normal. And the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan clearly speaks in itself that how he has said in the past that he has taken moral responsibility for not just once, twice, or many a times when these kind of instances have happened. And now finally looking at the widespread protest, he had accepted the demand and finally has resigned and submitted his resignation to Prime Minister of India.
Absolutely. And again, I think that is the important part that we are also dwelling on. The fact there was worry inside the government, Vasudha, as well, that some people may try and destabilize the situation deliberately while trying to keep the genuine students as the front. Yet you've got genuine protesters who have laid out demands. The government has engaged with them. Today, the third meeting is taking place. And the people who are working behind the scenes don't really want a resolution. They just want to create trouble. And in that light, before I come back to you, Vasudha, are two things that have happened. In the morning, in fact, just a couple of hours ago, Delhi police, they did a press conference where they said we are using facial recognition. We have found hundreds of people who participated in the 20th of July march who actually are known criminals. They are known bad characters. They have a police record, and they took advantage of the genuine march that was being done by the student protesters, and they ensured that violence broke out. Then you've also got multiple arrests that have been made of people who were trying to create trouble, not just in Delhi, but in other cities. Was there a sense, Vasudha, that some people may try and take advantage, and which is why it is better to engage with the students, accept all of their conditions before someone tries to make things go out of hand? Vasudha.
Padmaja, what I think is when it came to the farmers' protest or the protest by Muslim women with regard to CAA, the government knew what was happening. So they decided to engage with farmers on one hand, but when it came to the Shaheen Bagh protest, they decided that it went against its ideology and they didn't want to engage with them. When it came to wrestlers, they had a plan in mind. When it came to students, I think they did some sort of, they miscalculated in the beginning. They didn't understand that this could actually become this big. But on the 20th of July, when protesters actually stormed the streets of central Delhi, that's when they realized that this movement was getting bigger. Then social media was also a reality check for them. Now, in the last 3 days, they brought out several measures, but the numbers at Jantar Mantar were still growing because nobody is going to sit and understand that 3 days of discussion in the parliament or a law that can actually get fast track courts to dispose cases of exam paper leaks in 3 months is going to help them. So all that they wanted is the resignation of the education minister. If you look at the comments on social media videos, the kind of moves that the government was making, the youngsters of the country really wanted a strong action. They wanted a symbolic action. And Rahul Gandhi kept saying that Dharmendra Pradhan had become the symbol of what he called incompetence of the government. The government, I think, is very mindful of this narrative, and it does not want the country's strongest demographic potential to go against it. It's also being seen as the ruling party, which does not have a lot of young leaders, right? It wants to change that narrative. It wants to speak that language on the platforms that children are, that the youngsters are. And probably that's why it's giving them this message that you asked for this and we are giving you this. Now let's get back to business. We are here to talk to you. We are here to engage with you, but let's not get sidetracked into protests, because at the end of the day, productivity matters. At the end of the day, democracy matters.
Absolutely. Aishwarya, what are you hearing from the CJP camp? Any word just as yet? Now that all their conditions, remember yesterday when the meeting had taken place, both Saurav Das and Ashutosh Ranka said that two of our conditions, broadly, the government has agreed to it. One outstanding condition is that Dharmendra Pradhan must resign. Now, all of their conditions have been met. What happens next?
Well, it would be very interesting to see that whether this 3:30 meeting that has been called by the government with CJP delegation, whether now that will take place or not, because at Jantar Mantar currently the protesters, the students who are agitating for last more than 1 month are celebrating after the decision that came in and the announcement was made at Jantar Mantar, and the tweet was showcased to the students as well as Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned and the firm demand of them had been accepted. From here on, what I have been told is that the government will again have a dialogue with the CJP and will ask them to immediately now vacate Jantar Mantar and call off their protest, just not in the national capital but across the country. The appeal should be made to call off these protests, and certainly they will be also told about the rest of the decisions that the government has taken in last 3 days, more than 4 to 5 decisions. Perhaps the government was firm enough. Prime Minister Narendra Modi went on to social media platforms and made those particular videos to directly interact to the students, the government seems very sensitive. The message is very clear that government is sensitive towards the welfare of students and youth of this country. They are listening to them directly, and the decisions that they are taking that is in consideration with what they have been stating for a long time.
In fact, let's
So
quickly
certainly,
listen in to the
in
first
the near
reaction
future as
from
well, when
Jantar Mantar. Abhijit Dipke spoke just a while ago. Let's quickly get that to our viewers.
We have done it! We have done it! धर्मेंद्र प्रधान ने रिजाइन कर दिया है। क्या कहते थे ये? क्या कहते थे? इस सरकार में इस्तीफे नहीं होते। क्या कहते थे? इस सरकार में इस्तीफे नहीं होते। हम कहना चाहते हैं, झुकती है दुनिया, झुकाने वाला चाहिए। This is for them. ये उन सभी बच्चों के लिए जिनकी जिंदगी धर्मेंद्र प्रधान ने लिए थे।
Of course, reactions coming about, and there we saw Dipke there celebrating with the people of the
All right,
CJP there.
A lot of jubilation there, Vasudha. Sorry. There was a lot of jubilation, understandably, at Jantar Mantar, Vasudha. And now you've got Abhijit Dipke saying, "Jhukti hai duniya, jhukane wala chahiye." But also important is the kind of political reactions we are seeing from opposition parties, like Bipin Daruda from the Congress. He said, "This is very, very important. It's a win for everyone." And then in the next line, he says, "We will not stop until all the reforms are done." What's going to be the strategy of the Congress from here on? What are you hearing, Vasudha?
Well, I think what the government did, by in some ways asking Dharmendra Pradhan to resign, and I'm sure that he must have also felt the same, is because Padmaja, I felt this anti-NEET protests were also taking the form of anti-Modi protests, right? And that's something neither the Prime Minister wants, neither the BJP wants, and of course the government doesn't want that. Now, nobody in the government wants that, and which is why probably this has come at a time. It may have been, some people might feel that it's come a little too late. This was supposed to have happened before the parliament session began, which is when a lot of people told us that a cabinet reshuffle is expected to take place, and also a party organizational rehaul is also expected to take place. But both did not happen because clearly there were some issues, there were some disagreements which are getting sorted out. Now, with regard to the Congress party, Rahul Gandhi did not even go to Jantar Mantar. Gitanjali Anpo, the wife of Sonam Wangchuk, has clearly said that this was a students' protest, this was a CJP protest. But of course, you have to give credit to Rahul Gandhi because he has had 2 public engagement rallies on the same issues, but almost a month apart. This is
To Manoj Tiwari, Vasa, we'll just be back. Let's just get you some reactions coming about. Aishwarya, our colleague there, speaking with Manoj Tiwari. Let's listen in.
Well, certainly it is Manoj Tiwari who was just a while back here at the Constitution Club. He stated that yes, the resignation has been taken, and that is in consideration with what the students have been demanding. That clearly shows that how government is very sensitive towards the students of this country, and they are listening to what their emotions are, and therefore the reason perhaps the decision has been taken. But the government is not shying away from their responsibilities in that particular resignation as well. The same term has been used by Dharmendra Pradhan, that government is not shying away and government is not running away from their responsibilities. Each and every step are being taken to change education reforms of this country, and enough steps are being taken by the Modi government as far as the change in the system. Yes, they agree that NEET paper leaks have happened. 22 lakh students have been impacted. More than 20 students have committed suicide because of NEET paper leak issue. But the government is still firm, standing with the youth of this country, and therefore the reason perhaps looking at a widespread protest and the kind of demands that the CJP had put forward, the students of this country has put forward, the government has it should not be called as government bowed down before the students, but government is very sensitive towards the student, and they are taking enough steps. Is something that the government's version or the leaders from the Bharatiya Janata Party clearly reacting to Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation.
Absolutely. So the Prime Minister, when the first outreach happened, and he said, "Listen, We are sensitive to the concerns of the students. We are willing to carry out reforms. We want to engage with the students. 2 rounds of meetings have already taken place. A third is fixed for today. And the really important thing will be to see if all the demands have now been agreed upon. Will there be a political consensus? Even if you see the kind of reactions coming from the main opposition parties, of course, everyone is welcoming the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. But now, what is the next step? Is there going to be a shifting of goalposts? P. Chidambaram, for example, a while ago, Vasudha said this is a very welcome move. Hopefully, it should lead to a constructive discussion inside Parliament. And then there are other leaders who are saying this is only the first step. We want more. So, is this going to be now a first step in the direction of putting more pressure on the government? There is obviously going to be a claim that the government delayed it for too long, and eventually they had to buckle in front of the students' demands. Is there going to be another demand also that is now sought, or will we see some kind of debate happening in Parliament and that law being brought in?
Padmaja, yesterday when they had that 2-hour meeting with the CJP leaders, there were these 3 demands that were put across to the government, but also there were 5 reforms that were discussed during the meeting. If you could take us through the details of those.
Absolutely. So large-scale changes have already taken place in the NTA. So the overall of the NTA itself is being done. Then the Education Secretary was moved out. You've also got the government saying that in the future, any shortcomings can be analyzed, and the government is willing to try and fix any loopholes, any problems that exist in the system. That's as far as one part of the entire argument is concerned, talking about future reforms. The political step is really going to be key at this point. You can talk about an agency, you can remove a minister, Vasudha, but politically, will this be the last demand from the opposition, or are they now going to up the ante?
But Padmaja, with respect to all these reforms or moves that the government took in the last 2 days, the only question that the opposition asked and only question that CJP leaders, especially Abhijit Dipke, asked was, if you knew all of this was important, why didn't you do all of this? Why didn't you announce all of this in the last 10 years, specifically with regard to the amendments to the exam paper leaks case, or for that matter, the fast track courts, or even, the rehaul of the NTA, which was long pending. So, of course, when it comes to narrative fixing, when it comes to perception management, BJP understands that, it needs to do this. It's in the 3rd term, and it's also battling those issues that usually come with any government which is, in its third term. But when it comes to the opposition, I think now the BJP also will approach it from a position of strength and say that, because the students were protesting, they asked for this. We have done what they wanted. Now it's up to the opposition to understand the importance of the parliament. It needs to take part in discussion. So I think by this, the BJP will also make it very clear that it is trying to ensure that the parliament session is on track, because like Padmaja, we've been discussing, this session was supposed to be explosive, right? With so many bills on the government's legislative agenda, all of which have been sidetracked now because the focus is completely on the Jantar Mantar protest. Now I think the government, by doing this, has made sure that it comes clean on this front. But at the same time, I don't remember any single minister in the Modi government resigning because of controversies. MJ Akbar was probably the last one in 2018 who resigned because Me Too allegations were raised against him. And this probably is the first time, a minister has resigned because of an ongoing controversy. So clearly, it's the 3rd term of the government. The government is also cautious, mindful of narrative management. And more importantly, when it comes to youngsters, it does not want them to get into the promises of what the opposition is telling them, because clearly this is one generation that is capable of influencing not just its peers, but also its parents. And that's the socio-political cost that the BJP is not willing to sort of give.
Absolutely, and we've got a slew of reactions coming in, Divya. We'll play out a few of them also in just a second. But you know what is interesting? That in the last 5 days, we also saw multiple people who had taken up the cause. It started with the Cockroach Janata Party. You had their representatives talking with the government. Then there was Sonam Wangchuk, who was engaging with 2 ministers. And then there was a bit of tug of war, as it were, between the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress about who really should be the face, who should be the leading voice in taking up the students' cause. Then there were also some disagreements between the protesters who are still there at Jantar Mantar and Sonam Wangchuk. What did he say yesterday night? He said, I have sat on fast for 26 days, and just because I have broken it now doesn't mean that my sincerity to the cause should be questioned. So yes, there were some uncomfortable moments, even or some tug of war maybe I don't know if calling it credit war would be the right thing, but basically there were some competing demands on, who should be the
Right.
face of this leadership. And
Absolutely.
now it will be
We
interesting to
heard
see,
the
Divya, who
Congress
stays that
MP
way.
there questioning, saying that you made a deal with the government and so on and so forth, and, accusing Sonam Wangchuk of that. But also, Padmaja, the concerns when it comes to social media and those deep fake videos and those AI-generated videos that were doing the rounds, and that was a huge concern for the government as well.
Absolutely. And in fact, yesterday, two of our colleagues, Rahesha and Shiv, their videos were taken up by people who obviously, like we've been discussing right from the beginning, are trying to take advantage of a genuine protest. And that is something that has been red flagged by the Delhi police as well, that some bad faith actors have also entered the scene. They are trying to use the students' protest as a cover to try and create trouble. Videos are being manipulated. There were handles in Pakistan which used videos from NDTV of two of our colleagues, Rehisha and Shiv, and tried to put out a misleading information about the ongoing protests. Then there have been people whose faces have been recognized through software. Their pictures have been put out by the Delhi police. Those who were there on the 20th during that march, and those who continue to be there at Jantar Mantar. So there was this very real concern that some people may try to distort what is actually happening, and which is why it is better for this agitation now to be called off. And that is why the government was seen to be accommodating all of the demands of the protesters.
Right, some of those, handles on social media sites, over 400 of them that had links to Pakistan, and that was a huge concern as far as the government is concerned. But take us to the other concerns, because, there was violence, like you mentioned earlier, that erupted in the state of Bihar today.
Absolutely. And these are protests that are being seen across the country, not just in Bihar, by the way. Today, it has happened in Chhapra. Day before yesterday, it happened in Patna, where the vehicle of a BJP MLA was attacked. Again, it's the same pattern, Aishwarya, where a peaceful protest was started and then some bad faith actors entered it. They started pelting stones at the police. They started pelting stones at a BJP MLA's car, which was passing. Today, we've seen something similar happen in Chhapra. Yesterday, it happened in West Bengal, in Kolkata, where a large number of students had turned out. And in the middle, suddenly some people started misbehaving with the protesters. They started misbehaving with the media. Large-scale FIRs were filed. So that is the other aspect, that one, you engage with the students. Two, you bring in reforms. But three, and most importantly, you don't let anyone try and spoil the atmosphere, create anarchy in the garb of being protesters. Aishwarya.
Well, the government was concerned about the anti-social elements who joined this particular protest, and government knew through their intelligence as well that this protest might take another turn if there would be a nationwide call for the protest. Here in Delhi, we have already what happened on July 20th when the students marched towards the parliament. There were several such elements that were recognized who were anti-social. They were not students, and certainly they tried to, clearly, took and we have seen violence because of those people who joined the protest as well. The government was concerned, and we have also seen what Sonam Wangchuk stated while that particular video was recorded when he ended a 26-day long hunger strike. Sonam Wangchuk clearly appealed to the students as well that the students should not indulge with such anti-social elements who are trying to take another path as far as the peaceful protest here at Jantar Mantar or all across the country. So yes, that was another concern that the government had, and to stop that, certainly the government were taking certain decisions, but they do not wanted to use the force against them. They wanted to have dialogues, and therefore the continuous dialogue process was opened from the government side. Two union ministers were the point person to engage with the students and to Sonam Wangchuk as well, and their demands were continuously heard. Their demands were also fulfilled at several stages. They were told that government is positive in listening to them and they will engage. But when today the third round of talks were supposed to happen, we don't know as of now that whether the talks are still on or it's now cancelled. But huge police personnel deployments are over here. Let me show you these visuals from the Constitution Club of India over here, where it has been expected that two of the union ministers, JP Nadda and Mr. Jitendra Singh, will arrive. But before that, you can see complete the entire area has been completely cordoned off. There are presence of these police personals, these CRPF jawans over here in large numbers, so that any such anti-social element or the protesting students should not come over here. Only 2 members from those delegations of the CJP should come and should speak to the ministers. Now, the government sources also revealing to us that the talks might be carried in the evening as well, because the government want to appeal to these protesters and the students out there at Jantar Mantar that they should go back to their homes. The government is listening to them. The government is very sensitive towards their welfare in terms of their education reforms, and government is taking enough steps. But it's been more than 1 month that they are protesting. Government has accepted their demand of having resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Now they should immediately call off the protest, and they should also appeal to the students nationwide to call off the entire protest that they are having, and they should listen to what the parliament discussion was all about. One very interesting thing, Padmaja, I should also tell you that Congress leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi had stated, and their strategy was, along with the opposition parties, that until and unless Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation will not happen, they will not take part in the upcoming bill that the government is bringing in the Lok Sabha. So now it will be very interesting to see that whether these opposition parties will be taking part after the resignation being submitted to the Prime Minister by Dharmendra Pradhan, and whether they will now indulge in a very peaceful and cordial debate in the parliament or not.
Absolutely. And also, let's remind our viewers, Rahul Gandhi today morning, he held a press conference at around noon with the students who, other than Sonam Wangchuk, remember there were other students also who belong to the left students' body, who were sitting on an indefinite hunger strike at Jantar Mantar. Along with them, he did a press conference and he said, Vasudha, that it is not just about Dharmendra Pradhan's ministry being changed. He should be removed from the Council of Ministers altogether. So the politics from here on, Divya and Aishwarya, are going to be very, very interesting to see which way, what is going to be the strategy. But a quick update, in fact, we've also got a reaction from the Cockroach Janata Party where they have said, cockroaches won, democracy won, Jai Hind. So that's the first tweet that has come from them. And across the country, we are now hearing, Divya, that celebrations are taking place. Remember, in this weekend, the next 2 days, there were several protests, marches that were planned across the country in all the capital cities practically. Either members of the CJP or members of the Congress, they had planned peaceful marches, protests in order to put pressure on the government, again with the single demand of Dharmendra Pradhan resigning. So keeping in mind that this occasion, the fact that it's a weekend, more people will be free to join the demonstration, nobody should be able to try and take advantage of these protest marches that take place. On Saturday itself now, Dharmendra Pradhan has put in his resignation, and our sources are telling NDTV's Akhilesh Sharma that this was done on a moral ground. I believe there's some action happening where you are, Aishwarya. Over to you. What's going on?
Well, that's right. Let me show you these visuals from the Constitution Club of India, where now the CRPF police personnel have formed a human chain over here, and the path is very clear for the members to arrive from just not the CJP but from the Modi cabinet as well. Remember, Dr. Jitendra Singh and JP Nadda will be arriving over here very soon, and therefore the reason perhaps now the entire barricading has been removed so that their cavalcade can arrive over here. Let me show you these visuals as well of the CRPF police personals over here who have cleared the path and they have made a human chain so that they can go inside and can have a third round of talks, which are expected to start in just few minutes from now at the Constitution Club of India. Remember, it was the request that was made by the CJP delegation earlier to the government that they wanted to have discussion at the neutral venue and not at the residence of JP Nadda, where the first round of talks began. And certainly after that, it was also stated that either the ministers should come to Jantar Mantar or at around 700 meters of Jantar Mantar, so that in open the talks can happen, to which the government refrain of doing so. It is the kind of meeting that government does not have in open areas, and therefore the reason perhaps Constitution Club of India was chosen as one of the venue. That was another point of contention that arose a few days back between the CJP delegation and the government of India, but that was resolved as now in just few minutes from now the CRPF personnel are on alert. Any time, any moment from now, the ministers or the members from the CJP can arrive over here and the talks will begin, and certainly the government will be informing them about the decision now that has been taken. Remember, yesterday after the second round of talks, it was Saurabh Das who came outside and stated that 24 hours of ultimatum has been given to the government. They are still firm of demanding resignation from Dharmendra Pradhan, and just before the third round of talks here at the Constitution Club of India, we saw that post from Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan submitting his resignation to the Prime Minister, stating that earlier as well he had taken the moral responsibility and he is not running away from his duties. Enough steps have been taken to change the entire education reforms in the country under his leadership, under his ministerial position. But looking at the widespread protest, it will be now, it will be better that he should submit his resignation, as the demand remains the same, and therefore the reason perhaps Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has to step down from the Modi cabinet. Whether he will be shifted to any other ministry is something that remains to be seen, because Rahul Gandhi earlier also had stated that this is something that is going on in the Modi cabinet. He should be completely removed from the cabinet is the demand that Rahul Gandhi raised. But I'll show you these visuals again at the Constitution Club of India, where now the officials are waiting to receive either of the members of the CJP delegation or the ministers who arrive at the CCI.
All right. And again, today is going to be a day of fast developments. In half an hour from now is the meeting between the CJP, two members of the CJP, and two ministers who are representing the government, JP Nadda and Dr. Jitendra Singh, are going to be meeting with the two representatives. So far, it has been Ashutosh Ranka and Saurabh Das, who have been the face of the CJP, speaking on part of the CJP with the government. And after that, at 4 o'clock, we are expecting a joint press conference by the MNS chief and the Shiv Sena UBT chief, Uddhav Thackeray. That's going to happen at 4 p.m. But what are the reactions that we are getting right now? Beginning with Abhijit Dipke, the Congress party, the RJD. Let's quickly listen in, and that will really give you an idea of what the next step is going to be. Is there now going to be a dialogue? Are the opposition parties going to come on board for a debate inside Parliament? Listen in.
We have done it! We have done it! धर्मेंद्र प्रधान ने रिजाइन कर दिया है। क्या कहते थे ये? क्या कहते थे? इस सरकार में इस्तीफे नहीं होते। क्या कहते थे? इस सरकार में इस्तीफे नहीं होते। हम कहना चाहते, झुकती है दुनिया, झुकाने वाला चाहिए। This is for them. ये उन सभी बच्चों के लिए जिनकी जिंदगी धर्मेंद्र प्रधान ने लिए थे। इस्तीफा हो गया है, लेकिन हमारी दो और मांगे ऐसे ही नहीं जाएंगे, ऐसे ही नहीं जाएंगे। कॉकरोच है, एक बार घुसता है तो निकलता नहीं है कॉकरोच। धर्मेंद्र प्रधान का इस्तीफा तो हो गया है, लेकिन जिन बच्चों ने सुसाइड करी है उनके परिवार को 1 करोड़ का मुआवजा और मिलना चाहिए, नहीं मिलना चाहिए? मिलना चाहिए ना? 1 करोड़ का मुआवजा उन सारे परिवारों को। और दूसरा, ये जो पुलिस वाले गुंडों ने हरकत करी थी 20 तारीख को, उसके ऊपर पुलिस वालों के ऊपर एक्शन तो होना ही चाहिए। अगर एक मंत्री का इस्तीफा ले सकते हो तो तुम लोग क्या हो? तुम्हारी हमने लाठियां खा ली, सर फुड़वा लिया। इस देश के स्टूडेंट्स ने बहुत हिम्मत वाला काम करा। तो 20 जुलाई के बाद और 20 जुलाई से जितने भी स्टूडेंट्स के ऊपर केसेस किए गए वो सारे के सारे वापस होने चाहिए।
धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी का इस्तीफा हो गया, ये एक नैतिक जीत है, लेकिन केवल धर्मेंद्र प्रधान का इस्तीफा ही इसका कारण नहीं है। इसके पीछे तमाम चीजें और हैं। सरकार को अपने मंत्री का इस्तीफा लेना पड़ा, ये क्या थोड़ी बड़ी जीत है?
देर आए दुरुस्त आए, ये पहले आ जाना चाहिए था ताकि इतना नुकसान नहीं होता। इतने पूरे देश में हुआ, लोगों जो युवा पीढ़ी है उसका विश्वास उठ चुका है एग्जाम से। तो पूरा सिस्टम बदलना चाहिए, नया सिस्टम आना चाहिए, ट्रांसपेरेंट होना चाहिए। और ऐसा होना चाहिए, मान लो एक एग्जामिनेशन सेंटर है, 4-4, 5-5 क्वेश्चन पेपर हो और 100 तरीके हो सकते हैं जो ट्रांसपेरेंट बना सके, ताकि उनमें विश्वास पैदा हो कि जो जितना काबिल होगा उसको उतने नंबर मिलेंगे।
हमारे देश के युवाओं को, जेनजी को बहुत बधाई। बहुत खुशी की बात है, आप लोगों का संघर्ष रंग लाया। धर्मेंद्र प्रधान को अल्टीमेटली इस्तीफा देना पड़ा। ये पूरी डेमोक्रेसी की बहुत बड़ी जीत है। हमारे देश में लोगों का जनतंत्र से भरोसा ही उठ गया था। लोगों को लगने लगा था कि सरकारें सुनती नहीं है। जनता सरकारों के सामने चिल्लाती रहती थी, गिड़गिड़ाती रहती थी। हर चीज के लिए हम सरकार को हाथ जोड़ते रहते थे, पैर पकड़। सरकारें कभी सुनती नहीं थी। इतना बड़ा संघर्ष हुआ और अल्टीमेटली सरकार के अहंकार को झुकना पड़ा, जनता के सामने झुकना पड़ा। ये बहुत बड़ी जीत है, पूरे जनतंत्र की जीत है, डेमोक्रेसी की जीत है। और सरकार को भी अब समझ लेना चाहिए कि आपको जनता की सुननी पड़ेगी।
In fact, Shashi Tharoor has tweeted a while ago saying that the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan shows that in a democracy, accountability is fixed. Nobody is above the law, but greater reforms are now needed. The need of the hour is a complete overhaul, and that is where that really is going to be key. Aishwarya and Tanisha both are continuing to be live with us here. Tanisha, in fact, if you can just take us through some of the other reactions that we are getting on Twitter, on elsewhere, because right now, the next 48 hours is going to be key. In the next 48 hours, you will have the opposition parties really make that key decision on whether now the engagement from the streets moves into parliament, whether now, if everyone wants a complete overhaul, what steps are going to be suggested. Tanisha.
Right, absolutely, Padmaja. In fact, we have mixed reactions coming in, where on one hand, the protesters, those are there at the Jantar Mantar, are celebrating. They're calling it a win. On the other hand, the opposition is raising questions. Number one, the question that they've raised is, why is this resignation coming after so long, coming after so many protests that have taken place nationwide, and at the cost of what? At the cost of students getting lathi charged, at the cost of somebody going on a hunger strike. That's one question that the Congress is raising. The other question that other opposition parties are also raising is that the action comes too late on the cost of students when a lot of damage has already been done. So mixed reactions coming in, Padmaja, on that note. And with that, I would like to go to Aishwarya also, who's joining us live from the Constitution Club, I believe. Aishwarya, action is going to be there where you are currently. There are going to be union ministers who are going to be there. I believe there is ample security deployment that's there on the spot. Take us through, what are we expecting as far as the talks are concerned, keeping in mind that the main demand of the protesters, that is the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, has already been fulfilled by the government.
Well, before I tell you what is going to happen here at the Constitution Club of India, the Congress Party President have also reacted to the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, and as Padmaja was also mentioning, what is next going to happen as far as the entire politics revolving around. Yes, the resignation demand has been accepted, but the Congress have put forward another demand in front of the government. Mallikarjun Kharge went on to say that now it is time for Prime Minister Modi ji to apologize to our young generation and to take strict action against those who unleash lathis and pellet guns upon them. That clearly means that the demand have come forward from the Congress party, asking Prime Minister to apologize next. Certainly, it's going to be very interesting how things pan out from here to Monday, where the government is likely to table this amended bill.
That
But
has
here at the
just been
Constitution-
flashed by Himanshu Shekhar, the Lok Sabha agenda for Monday, and in the legislative business, the bill for consideration and passing. The legislative business has come, and in that, it has been said that Dr. Jitendra Singh is going to move the bill to amend the Public Examinations Prevention of Unfair Means Act 2024 to be taken into consideration, also to move that the bill be passed. So this is big. So here the government has given the Lok Sabha agenda for Monday, and in the legislative business, the anti-cheating, if we can call it that in short form, the anti-cheating bill is already listed for discussion and passing on Monday, Aishwarya. This is big.
Well, that's the government clearly had stated after the amendments were passed in the cabinet just yesterday under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And it is several amendments to make it more stringent. This law was already in place back in 2024, but the amendments were passed yesterday in the cabinet, and that will be coming under the DOPT, which comes under Dr. Jitendra Singh. He will be moving this bill of Public Examination Prevention of Unfair Means Act 2024, which will pave way for more stringent action against those whosoever are indulging in the practices of paper league across the country. And the fast track has also been one of the amendment that will be now under this particular act, so that any case registered as far as the paper leaks are concerned should move straight to the fast track courts. There are timelines that have been set. Within 3 months of time period, the guilty will be punished, and the punishment will be announced as well. So different courts have already had stated that yes, there would be the fast track courts all across the country that will be set up and will deal with such cases. Another piece of news that we are hearing after the Congress party now demanding Prime Minister to apologize. They will not go this entire protest let go by just having a resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Prime Minister should apologize to the students as well, is what has been stated. The reaction from Abhijit Deepke, he has also stated now that we have two more demands. We won't go like this. Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned, but the families of children who committed suicide should receive compensation of 1 crore rupees. That's the government was very positive in 2 rounds of talks. The government stated that the compensation will be given to the students. They should get it, 1 crore rupees compensation to all those families. And second, these police goons who acted on the 28th, action must be taken against those police officers.
And all eyes for that are now going to be on that meeting, Vishnu, that takes place at 3:30 p.m. between the government and the protesters. 2 rounds have already taken place, but things have changed completely now with the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. So in essence, the government has agreed to every demand of the protesters. Will there now be a breakthrough? Will this protest be broken up at Jantar Mantar and across the country? And will there be a debate in Parliament on Monday, when the government is already saying in the legislative business they have listed the anti-cheating bill? Vishnu.
No, absolutely. And what you say is exactly correct. This is a huge victory for the protesters. The government has conceded on all of the important grounds. The most important one, the pressing one, what CJP leaders have told us, and I've been there at Jantar Mantar for the last couple of days. Even last night, they said that whatever else the government is willing to agree upon, that the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has to go, which is why when this afternoon, this lengthy email, this lengthy tweet actually came from Dharmendra Pradhan of his letter to the Prime Minister resigning. It's perhaps come even quicker than many people would have expected. Remember, yesterday there were signs that Dharmendra Pradhan perhaps wouldn't go. There were those within the BJP who were certainly protecting him, defending him, and saying that in this present scenario, he shouldn't go. But that is one of the 3 demands, the primary one. The other one, of course, as we've been discussing, is on the entire issue of compensation to the families of those students who ended their lives by suicide as a result of the NEET crisis and the failure of the NEET examination system. And of course, as importantly, they don't want any FIRs against students. They don't want any legal action against students who've been involved in these protests. Now, the talks which are going to take place are important because what the students have been saying, what the Cockroach Janta Party have been saying when I spoke to them yesterday, is that they want this all in writing. That is the next big step in all of this. Now, we've got a reaction coming in now from Sonam Wangchuk. Let's just listen.
Okay, I think there's some action happening there where Aishwarya is right now, the Constitution Club. Over to you, Aishwarya. Take it away.
Well, the delegation of the CJP, Abhishek Ranka and Saurabh Das have arrived over here. Ashutosh Ranka and Saurabh Das have arrived over here at the Constitution Club of India. There you can see the visual. They just ran away and gone inside the Constitution Club and showed the victory sign to the media personals over here as well, who was covering the entire third level round of talks with the government. So certainly there you can see in the visuals now the CJP delegation have arrived. They showed a victory sign as the resignation just have came from Dharmendra Pradhan. The demand that they were putting forward amid the heavy security, these two members from the CJP have arrived. The Delhi police officials have also arrived along with them, and the CRPF over here. Now there would be two ministers, JP Nadda and the Jitendra Singh, who will be arriving very soon for having these third level of talks. The government sources clearly indicating to us that now, when all the demands have been fulfilled, the government will only request them to immediately vacate Jantar Mantar and to call off this entire protest, just not in Delhi but also across the nation as well. So yes, the third round of talks will soon begin at the CCI. The latest that is coming in is that the two members from the CJP have now arrived at the Constitution Club of India, and just minutes from now, the third level of talks will begin here at the Constitution Club.
In fact, a sort of a direction to that has been shown by the first reaction we've got, Vishnu, from Sonam Wangchuk, who has just said it's a victory of democracy, direct democracy straight from the streets. It's a victory of peace, patience and perseverance. Congratulations, CJP, Gen Z of the nation, and thank you all citizens for shedding fear. And the fear of fear and rising up from every corner of the nation, from accountability now to reform. So even Sonam Wangchuk perhaps nudging the protesters now in that direction. You sought accountability, you got it with the resignation of the minister. Now it's over to reforms. Vishnu.
You know, Padmaja, that's an important point, because remember, there was some protest or some disagreement with Sonam Wangchuk when he called off his fast yesterday. Now, I personally felt that was horrible. This is a man who's been on fast now for several weeks. He's lost 11 kilograms of weight. His wife says that, there is only so much that one person can physically do. So, and on the other hand, there were those who said that by calling off his strike and not listing the entire issue of Dharmendra Pradhan in his latest round of letters, Sonam Wangchuk was in a sense letting the movement down. I don't believe that's the case. And when I spoke to CJP leaders yesterday, they were very thankful of Sonam Wangchuk. But what Sonam Wangchuk did say is that there shouldn't be FIRs and there should be compensation. In his last couple of letters, there was a sense of ambiguity about the primary demand of Dharmendra Pradhan. But that is in the past. What is a reality now is the fact that Dharmendra Pradhan is gone. He submitted his resignation to the Prime Minister. That came perhaps somewhat unexpectedly. I didn't think it would happen as quickly as that. There were signs within the BJP that wouldn't happen. But Sonam Wangchuk says that this is a victory of students. And it is that. But I think the larger question, to which we don't have any answers at this stage, is this where this ends? Or is this the beginning of a larger political movement in the country? I would suggest that it's far too early to venture a guess either way.
In fact, we've got a reaction from Abhijit Dipke as well, where he said this is democracy. He has resigned. We have two more demands. We will not go like this. Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned, but the families of the children who committed suicide should receive compensation of 1 crore rupees. They should get it. 1 crore rupees compensation to all those families. And second, those police goons who acted on the 20th, action must be taken against the police officers for that. So two more things. And then he's ended that by saying, remember, do not mess with cockroach. So you've got these two demands also on the table now, Aishwarya. But in principle, when it comes to not registering FIRs against the peaceful protesters from the 20th of July and the demand of compensation, largely, wasn't there an agreement reached on this yesterday itself, Aishwarya?
Well, that's right. Government seems very positive on these two demands. Dr. Jitendra Singh himself clarified that government is firm, government is positive in giving compensation to those parents who lost their students because of the NEET paper leak cases, who committed suicide. And also, there will be no action taken against those students who are protesting at Jantar Mantar, or either who protested on 20th July and marched towards Parliament. But here, there is a slight difference in the demand. Abhijit Dipke went on to say that there should be action against the police personnel, police goons who had indulged in beating up these students who marched towards Parliament. So another demand coming in from the CJP. The leader of opposition in Rajya Sabha and Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge went on to say that Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is fine, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi should apologize to the nation for giving up the charge for these police personnel who are beaten up, for the lathi charge that they were indulged in. And certainly it was it is now new demands that are coming in from the opposition and the CJP as well. But it is very, very, I'm very, very sure on the part of the government, as I've spoken to a few senior ministers as well, the demands that were put forward by the CJP now all have been accepted, including the demand for compensation, including no legal action against students, and also the third demand of now seeking resignation of Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, which has now been submitted, and Dharmendra Pradhan posted on social media platform X. Any moment from now, what we are expecting is Dr. Jitendra Singh or JP Nadda, who would be arriving here at the Constitution Club of India. Ashutosh Ranka and Saurabh Das already arrived at the CCI for the third level of talks. And as they arrived, they showed a victory sign towards the cameras over here of the media personals who are covering this third round of talks at the Constitution Club of India. That clearly shows that how happy they are. And we also heard a statement coming in from Abhijit Deepke at the Jantar Mantar, where they clearly stated that this is victory for them.
In fact, a victory sign being flashed there by Sonam Wangchuk also from his hospital bed. But this particular demand should not be too difficult for the government either, Vishnu. The fact that if any excessive use of force has been done, then action should be taken against those cops. The issue highlighted yesterday by Rahul Gandhi of allegations that pellet guns, pump action guns, were also used in the Delhi protest on the 20th of July. Remember, on Monday, there also is a hearing in court. A PIL has been filed on this very issue, that excessive use of force was done on the protest on the 20th of July, and the court is set to hear that plea on Monday as well. Vishnu.
So, as I see it now, Padmaja, there are four main points over here. Number one, Dharmendra Pradhan must resign. That's been done. 1 crore to the families of all students who died by suicide. Now, the CJP leaders, and that's a Freudian slip if ever there was one, but the CJP leaders are saying that, that's something they've got some sort of an assurance on. But on the entire issue of the exact amount, whether it's going to be 1 crore or not, and whether the government is going to give that to them in writing, I think these talks at Constitution Club are important. Number 3, no action against any of the student protesters. This they have been demanding. Sonam Wangchuk demanded this as well. Number 4, a public apology from the RAF and Delhi police. This is something that we've not really reported, but as I understand it, this is a new demand, right? So again, the effort seems to be that, one way or the other, the police must be accountable. The statement is important. The Rapid Action Force, the Delhi police, remember what you were talking about just now, the use of pump action guns, pellet guns, which maim, which cause so much, harm. That's something which is going to come up in the courts as well. The Jantar Mantar in the entire country is still waiting on the rest of the demands. The Cockroach Janta Party and the protesters over there at Jantar Mantar and other parts of the country have achieved what many people would say is fairly unbelievable when it comes to the BJP. This government is a very strong government. This government, for example, in the case of the farmer riots, had not conceded. The protests went on for months and months and months against an extremely violent group. But within a month or so over here, on this particular issue, we've seen the Prime Minister reach out. We've seen the Prime Minister appear on Instagram.
In fact,
as we speak,
Vishnu, we've got a fresh tweet from the CJP where they have said CJP's demand roster has been updated. Dharmendra Pradhan must resign. That's checked. 1 crore to the families of all students who died by suicide. They say it's pending. No action against any of the student protesters, pending. Public apology from RAF and Delhi police, pending. So the last two could still be a little tricky. It could be a sticking point for the simple reason that this public apology is now an updated demand that is being made. And when they say no action against any of the student protesters, and Shiv also joining us now on the broadcast, that is going to be tricky. Remember, there have been student protesters who were marching peacefully. And then there have been bad actors who have engaged in violence. They have been identified. Close to a dozen FIRs have been filed. So is the demand extending to withdrawing all of those FIRs? That is all going to be up for negotiations as well. Shiv, public apology, and will all FIRs will have to be withdrawn?
Absolutely. I think, whether or not these are updated demands, the CJP has been absolutely unmoving, uncompromising in those baseline demands that it has been making. The principle of which has been Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. The fact that it's happened is a huge development, and that ticks off the box of perhaps the one demand that most people thought was actually not going to happen. Remember, yesterday media headlines had screamed that there were sources saying that Dharmendra Pradhan was not going to resign. He has resigned. I think there will be one section, Padmaja and Vishnu, that will see this as a victory for the students and the CJP. There will be another section that will see this aligned with the many actions and the words that the Prime Minister has taken as being much more of a realization that this was something much bigger than it had initially been believed. But you're right. I think the two other demands from the ground at Jantar Mantar, for a public apology by the security establishment, the police, etc., the CRPF, for what happened on the 20th of this month, as well as your compensation for the victims, and an assurance that action will not be taken against those who participated in the protests, even though there seems to be a distinction there, because one of the statements says those who protested peacefully, and others say protesters in general. That's a very important distinction, because remember, Padmaja, as you and I have been reporting, the police has already started taking action against miscreants who were part of the violence that took place on the 20th of July. So this may be a sticking point, but at the moment, I think the larger atmosphere, the larger surround sound around the obvious symbolic victory of Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation most definitely takes center stage. Some will interpret this as the CJP seeing its muscle actually have an impact, and that may embolden the CJP to push for those other slightly more complicated demands to actually get in. Because remember, those are structural. Law and order taking action against miscreants, people who have been history sheeters. Some of those faces have come out as well. That is going to be a little bit more complicated. An apology, expressing regret for some things. The girl who suffered injuries, who was recovering in hospital, that statement also came out a short while ago. I think those are the slightly easier things to do for the establishment. But now that Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned, I think some of those things should be a little less complicated to push through now. Padmaja.
Absolutely. And in fact, that's the news that we are breaking, an updated roster of demands that the CJP has now put out. They have put out 4 demands where they are saying that Dharmendra Pradhan resignation, check. But there are other things which are still pending, which is a public apology from the RAF and Delhi police, an assurance that no case will be filed against any of the protesters, and also the reform. So that updated roster of demands has just been put in. And since you spoke of interpretation, that really is what we are seeing happening right now. How is this resignation of a sitting minister, and that to somebody who is very, very close to the top figures in the government, somebody with an ABVP background, him resigning, how is that going to be interpreted? And we see this narrative setting happening from both sides, where the Congress party, RJD, Samajwadi party, they are saying that this is the first sign that there are chinks in the government's armor, Vishnu. And then anyone from the BJP or from the government reacting is saying, we didn't want anti-social elements to take advantage of a genuine protest for national integration, for national, for reasons of national safety. That's pretty much what Dharmendra Pradhan has also said in his resignation, that I don't want people to spoil the atmosphere in the country, which is why I take moral responsibility and resign. So there's narrative setting on both sides. Vishnu.
No, so I think what you point out is important, and I'm just going to read that one paragraph, second last paragraph in the letter of Dharmendra Pradhan, which explains what you say, essentially the position of the government and his own position on this, to ensure that anti-national forces do not take advantage of the situation at Jantar Mantar and across the country, that the nation's unity remains intact, that no Indian student's future gets tangled in legal complexities, and that our children invest their time in studying and focusing on building their careers. Considering all of this, I've sent my resignation letter to the Honorable Prime Minister. So that is certainly the line that the BJP will be taking, the government will be taking. The ex-education minister has already taken that line. But I think the other side of this is going to be taking the line that this is a very, very big victory as far as the CJP is concerned, the Cockroach Janata Party is concerned. Whether or not, as I mentioned to you earlier on, Padmaja,
that Home Minister Amit Shah has just met the Prime Minister. Obviously, it's going to be in this regard because this is a situation not just pertaining to Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation, but the overall manner in which the government is handling and navigating an unfolding situation at Jantar Mantar. As Padmaja just reported, there is an updated set of demands that the CJP has reminded the government about. But the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan is also complicated because he says he has done so not because of the demands and not because of the allegations of ineptitude concerning NEET and examinations, but in the larger interests of students not having their causes hijacked in this situation. So there's a lot of wordplay going on, Vishnu. But I think overall the resignation of the education minister will be seen as impact. It's Jantar Mantar impact is what it's going to be interpreted as, and rightfully so. Vishnu, you and I, a couple of the only anchors in the media, mind you, that have actually gone down to the ground to Jantar Mantar and reported live, and in the flesh from there. The resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, which you and I both reported as being a demand that the CJP and the students on the ground were simply unwilling to compromise on. So one can imagine what this feels like on the ground in Jantar Mantar right now. We'll get Ankit in just a moment. But Amit Shah, the Home Minister, is meeting the Prime Minister. Remember, the Prime Minister has been taking to Instagram in a very big and record-setting sort of way over the last 48 hours. He's been putting out reels and videos, that have had their own sort of effect. I think, Vishnu, something that strikes me as very important. There will be one section which will say that this is impact and that the government's arrogance has been shattered. It's a chink in their armor. There is another side that will say that, for all the disconnect that the government has been accused of, this may be very well, late realization about misreading the situation and, not understanding that this wasn't just about narrative. And, learning the chops, learning that, you have to be able to connect. You've got to be able to understand what's happening. You've got to look beyond the fact that this may not be just CJP, but genuine student and, Gen Z anger that is playing out. This isn't just algorithms and, coded fury, but genuine emotions playing out on the ground. And that's what the government may have realized. And that's the reason why the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan may have been seen as inevitable. I don't see it as anything else. It can't just be narrative. It can't just be, the government cutting its losses, which is a phrase a lot of people are using. This may be a genuine realization that they need to connect more and understand students just a little bit better as far as this situation is concerned, Vishnu. But clearly, lots of movements happening in the government right now.
No, Shiv, I agree completely with you. And I just read out that paragraph of that letter by Dharmendra Pradhan, which sort of explains what he would say and what the government would say. But, I can tell you on the ground in Jantar Mantar, we've got those visuals on the screen now. It's obviously a source of great joy, and it's a big victory for, lakhs of these students. We don't really have a number, easily over a lakh, and perhaps not just in Delhi, but, across the country, celebrating what they see as a major victory against the government. But again, to go back to what you were saying, that I do believe that it has come late perhaps, but the government has realized that their appeal to the youth, their inability to connect on this central issue is something that they need to recognize. The fact that the Prime Minister has reportedly told many of his other ministers that, look, you need to get onto Instagram, you need to connect much further. The BJP have always been master communicators. They've been communicating with every single section. Many suggest that that's been their big electoral success, or one of the grounds on the basis of which they've managed incredible electoral success. On this particular occasion, they failed to do that. And I think the fact that you've had the Prime Minister on a couple of occasions get onto Instagram, make those statements, the fact that they are telling other BJP leaders that where on earth are you as far as Instagram is concerned, is an indicator that they are flipping their strategy. They are changing their strategy. They are getting quicker and more nimble on their feet. And therefore, what the BJP is saying right now is that they need to do this to try and reach out to students on the one hand, on the other hand, to ensure that these entire protests are not overrun. But I think the only question at this stage, the broader one, obviously, which we don't have an answer to, Shiv, is where does this CJP protest go? A couple of days when I'd actually tweeted out and I said, keep the politics aside for a moment, or keep the politics aside. This is about our students. This is about their future. This is about the exam system, etc. And a lot of people disagreed, and I think there's merit in that disagreement. And they said, no, you're getting it completely wrong, Vishnu. The fact is, this is a political movement. So when I actually went back yesterday and I asked people, it was 50-50. Many people, particularly older ones, said that, no, we are here to support our kids. We are here to support ourselves. We want jobs. We want education. That's important. Whereas the other 50%, right, said that, no, this is a larger political movement. If it is a larger political movement, and this is my point, Shiv, then the broad contours of that may be known now, but the shape of that political formation cannot remain what it is now with the CJP.
Yeah.
It's not structured enough. The BJP defines the word political structure. That's one of the other reasons they've done so well, right? So where will this go, right, beyond this? That's an answer to which we have no answer. That's a question to which we have no answer.
I agree. And, the CJP and the students at Jantar Mantar will rightfully, feel emboldened and powerful right now to see what the next step in this movement is going to be about. But this is definitely impact from the ground. I will only say one thing that, this has been complicated for the government and the BJP because Prime Minister Modi is undoubtedly extremely popular with students and youth. And this may have led to a realization about why this particular issue had led to this kind of anger. There may have been a section that had interpreted it as algorithm and foreign hand and deep state and, politicized, etc. But there was clearly someone within the government, perhaps the Prime Minister himself, who set all of that aside and said, there is something organic about this. There is something genuine about what people are saying, when you cut through all the noise and the abuse, etc. And that may have struck a chord within the system, Vishnu, because this also sends out the message that the government is not above responding to protests and a genuine conversation. They've been engaging. Let's remember, this isn't a knee-jerk reaction. There's been a constructive engagement with the CJP over the last 72 hours. 3 rounds of talks have happened. The whole Wangchuk affair, the way that played out, showed that the government was not sitting in some tower and ignoring everything, at least until the time where it became really, really critical. So that is something that most people will not be able to acknowledge today. But it also shows that that Prime Minister Modi personally, who enjoys an incredible level of connect with youth and students, through his many channels, Pariksha Pe Charcha and things like that. This may have weighed quite heavily on him personally and on the government itself and the BJP over why this particular disconnect may have happened on the NEET paper leaks issue. And to be able to, be politically nimble, even though it came, some would say, a little late, and to react to it in a way where you're taking material actions through videos, through genuine actions, through the resignation of a minister, unthinkable until a few hours ago, right, Vishnu? Even though you and I were among the only journalists in this entire media fraternity who were saying that this demand is not going to be negotiable, it's not going to be compromised on, because it has gone beyond the CJP, it's gone beyond it's gone beyond the just demands made on paper in those little meetings. This is something that has organically taken root on the ground, and people who don't even recognize the face of Dharmendra Pradhan are asking for his resignation, which means it's become a kind of rallying symbolic point beyond just one human minister. It's become a sort of metaphor for accountability, and I think that's what has really taken place today. A CJP delegation has now come to meet with the government. They've got their hands in the air, rightfully so, because this is a victory signal moment as far as the CJP is concerned, and a victory for them, given that the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan was the demand numero uno, Vishnu, right from the start. So for that to happen,
they came in a police Scorpio
a month later is important.
Which is a bit of an irony. Shiv, they just came in a police jeep, which is a bit of an irony, isn't it? It wasn't their own car which they landed up in. They've come in a police vehicle right now. The same police against whom they are demanding action. But within the last couple of hours, there has been such an important change which has taken place. All right, since in case our viewers have just joined in, the talks, the third round of talks between the CJP, the Cockroach Janata Party, and the government is now starting out very soon at the Constitution Club. This is after the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has put in his resignation paper. The other demands which are being made right now by the Cockroach Janata Party, only one of them is essentially new. The older one is 1 crore to the families of all students who died by suicide. Number 3, no action against any of the student protesters. Okay, there are some reactions coming in. Let's just listen in. Akhilesh Yadav.
आप मैनेजमेंट के लिए लगे रहे, हालांकि कैमरे के सामने आप बोलते थे, लेकिन ज़ेन जी की ताकत को देख करके आपको अपना मोबाइल भी टेढ़ा करना पड़ गया, और मोबाइल टेढ़ा कर करके आपको अपनी भाषा, अपना व्यवहार, अपनी भाषण देना पड़ा, और एक बार नहीं 2 बार देना पड़ा, क्योंकि नई पीढ़ी के लोग रात में भी जगते हैं, तो रात में भाषण दिया। वैसे तो 8 बजे भाषण होता है अक्सर, इस बार तो रात के 12 बजे के लगभग भाषण हो रहे हैं। ये बड़ी जीत है नई पीढ़ी के लोगों की, और सरकार को ये बात समझ लेनी चाहिए कि परीक्षा को लेकर के, शिक्षा को लेकर के, और कौन सी शिक्षा, प्राइमरी एजुकेशन से लेकर के हायर एजुकेशन तक पर सरकार को बहुत गंभीरता से सोचना पड़ेगा। परीक्षाओं के पेपर लीक ना हो, इसके लिए ठोस कदम उठाने पड़ेंगे। कानून बनना तो अपनी जगह है, सजा मिलना कोर्ट से मिलेगी, लेकिन किसी भी परीक्षा का पेपर लीक ना हो, ये सबक इस आंदोलन से सीखना चाहिए। और एक बात जो हम सब ने देखा, सीखा, समझा, भारतीय जनता पार्टी जो नकारात्मक राजनीति करती थी, नकारात्मक राजनीति के लिए वो न जाने कितनी धन दौलत खर्च करते थे, लेकिन नई पीढ़ी युवा के लोगों ने ऐसे नारे बनाए, ऐसे पोस्टर बनाए, जिनके बारे में और नारों के बारे में हम लोग सोच भी नहीं सकते थे। वो नारे आए, किसी का समर्थन रहा हो ना रहा हो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी का, लेकिन
All right, so the opposition, which has really sort of associated themselves with the Cockroach Janata Party movement over the last several days, has now reacted as well. You saw Akhilesh Yadav, Samajwadi Party chief, speaking over there. The images there on the right-hand side of your screen are from the Constitution Club of India. That is where there are important talks now taking place between leaders of the Cockroach Janata Party and members of the government over there. This is with regard to their 4 demands. The pictures on your screen show sort of Das and some of the other leaders are reaching over there just a little while back. The irony over here is that they came in a police jeep, in a police Scorpio, the same police with whom that they've had so many problems. Yeah. But I think it's important to reflect for a moment on the 4 demands that they're going to be actually looking at. The demands are important because they reflect what's going to be taking place right now. The first demand has already been met, Dharmendra Pradhan and his resignation. That's something that has been ensured. The other issue is of compensation. 1 crore rupees is what the students basically want to be paid to the families of those who've lost their lives. The number 3 demand is, there are 2 other key demands. I'm just going to get to that in a moment. The number 3 demand is that there must be no legal action which is taken against the student protesters over there. And number 4, they want an apology from the Delhi police and the Rapid Action Force who've been involved in all of these protests. So if that does take place, and when I was speaking to leaders yesterday, CJP leaders, they said that we want all of this in a piece of paper. Yeah. But 3 of the 4 points, the new addition is that apology from the police and the Rapid Action Force. 2 of those points is something which the government seemed to have indicated to them that they were willing to do. The third one, which is the most important one, as far as the CJP is concerned, Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation, that has taken place today. The new addition that I can see is this apology from the police. Taricha?
Yes, Vishnu, also let's reflect upon what actually transpired in the last 12 hours, because just day before yesterday, we saw the Prime Minister going on to Instagram, going on to Twitter and addressing the youth, saying that we assure you that justice will be served. Soon after which, there were many NTA reforms that came in. There were 47 officials of the NTA who were terminated just yesterday. Again, late at night, at about 11:30 is when the Prime Minister had issued a video statement. And among all of this, Vishnu, and like you were pointing out, there was government sources that were telling NDTV that there is no question of Dharmendra Pradhan Pradhan's resignation and that the government is standing with him. But what actually transpired in those last 12 hours, that today we see the unexpected that has happened. Nobody was expecting this because all the headlines read one thing, that the government is standing with Dharmendra Pradhan. So what actually do you think would have been the possible reasons that led to the change in mind, that led to the change in the mindset of the government and finally the resignation of the Education Minister?
No, I think it's quite clear that the government realized at some stage that they need to be nimble on their feet, that there is a disconnect between what the young protesters over there, many of whom are students and young professionals, are saying and what the government is doing. There has certainly been a disconnect, and this is why the government or the BJP is asking us to be more with it when it comes to Instagram. So in other words, there's been a disconnect between the messaging which has been going out by the protesters on Instagram and how the government's leaders actually reach out to them. The fact that you've had the Prime Minister on 2 occasions, including very late at night, send out his messages on multiple social media formats, but not least of all Instagram, is an important indicator of how the government wants to ensure that the connect which they pride themselves in when it comes to the youth is regained. To the larger issue on whether they have lost substantially that support among the youth base in this country, I think given the rapid rise of the CJP, the larger issues which they've raised, and the success of the protests at Jantar Mantar and elsewhere, there is a sense that perhaps they've lost that. Now, what is the BJP going to do? Is this something which is going to mark perhaps a larger role of the CJP in national politics? We don't know. But remember, the BJP as a political party is extremely nimble on its feet. They are quick to think. They've got massive organization. And I don't think we are now at the stage of looking at the CJP as a larger national level political movement in quite the same way as some of our legacy political parties, including the BJP. What happens in the future, it is too early to say. But I think the expectation, and we do need to reflect on this from, in terms of the expectation right now, is that these protests need to come to an end, is what the government would be hoping. It's a huge victory. The government has conceded pretty much everything. Yes. I would assume that there would be written guarantees because the government obviously wants to end this. The CJP has got this victory. Dharmendra Pradhan has resigned to the Prime Minister. Will the protesters, go away? The numbers have been huge. Will there be a restoration of normalcy? If that happens, then, it's all's well that ends well as far as today is concerned. But going forward, again, no clarity on what the CJP will do. Yes, they have become a larger movement at this stage. Yes, it's not just limited to student issues or to exam issues or to youth issues. But again, the contours of them as a larger political formation, we do not know. But there have been so many developments. As you pointed out, the replacement of multiple NEET officials. Prior to that, the Education Secretary going. Now the big one, the Education Minister going. And so many other steps, right? So let's see where this all heads. There have been important reactions as well, Tanisha. Could you tell us about some of the opposition reactions?
Absolutely, Vishnu. On one hand, while the Cockroach Janata Party has been celebrating at Jantar Mantar, a few of their representatives have already reached the Constitution Club, where my colleague Aishwarya, as we'll go back to him. But let's also hear out the political reactions that have come in from the opposition on how they are reacting to the situation. Vishnu, there are some of the opposition leaders who have welcomed the move, who have appreciated the move of the government, as saying that it's a great thing that they have done, extending an olive branch and conceding finally to the voice of the youth, while on the other hand there are also other Congress leaders and opposition members who are calling the action too little and too late. Let's hear some of the reactions that we're getting in on the broadcast right now.
धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी का इस्तीफा हो गया, ये एक नैतिक जीत है, लेकिन केवल धर्मेंद्र प्रधान का इस्तीफा ही इसका कारण नहीं है। इसके पीछे तमाम चीजें और हैं। सरकार को अपने मंत्री का इस्तीफा लेना पड़ा, ये क्या थोड़ी बड़ी जीत है।
देर आए दुरुस्त आए, ये पहले आ जाना चाहिए था ताकि इतना नुकसान नहीं होता। इतने पूरे देश में लोगों, जो युवा पीढ़ी है उसका विश्वास उठ चुका है एग्जाम से, तो पूरा सिस्टम बदलना चाहिए, नया सिस्टम आना चाहिए, ट्रांसपेरेंट होना चाहिए। और ऐसा होना चाहिए, मान लो एक एग्जामिनेशन सेंटर है, 4-4, 5-5 क्वेश्चन पेपर हो और 100 तरीके हो सकते हैं जो ट्रांसपेरेंट बना सके, ताकि उनमें विश्वास पैदा हो कि जो जितना काबिल होगा उसको उतने नंबर मिलेंगे।
All right, these were reactions of some of the senior Congress leaders. Let's also now listen into what Priyanka Gandhi Vajra had to say soon after the news broke out of Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. Remember, she has been the front face of the protest that were being led by the Congress party, be it outside Prime Minister's residence or other parts of the city. Let's hear into what Priyanka Gandhi has to say.
I'm very, very happy for many reasons, but the main reason is that I believe today, the 25th of July 2026, is the day that the people of our country have started claiming their country back from those who have tried to destroy the Constitution, from those who have tried everything to oppress and suppress the voice of our people. I believe that this is a victory for the youth of India. I am so proud of each one of them who has gone and stood there. They have done it exactly in the way that Mahatma Gandhi taught us. They have done it non-violently. Pellet guns were fired at them. Tear gas was fired at them. They were beaten with lathis. They had serious injuries, but they did not bend. The government had to bend to their will. And that is a lesson for every ruler of this country from now to forever. You have to listen to the will of the people.
All right, Vishnu, like you see there, a lot of political reactions that are coming in, but I want to come back on the resignation because that remains the top big story, keeping in mind that the next 48 hours are going to be very crucial. Vishnu, what do you think? Did this resignation come as a real accountability for the exam paper leak from Dharmendra Pradhan, or was it largely symbolic to quell the protests that were taking place, remember, not just in Jantar Mantar, in the national capital, but it had spread to the other parts of the country as well, be it Maharashtra, be it Patna, in fact?
So it's not, it is a very serious sort of change or move which has taken place. There's nothing symbolic per se about it. I'm just going to read out that one paragraph from the resignation letter of Dharmendra Pradhan. This is a translation. He says, to ensure that anti-national forces do not take advantage of the situation at Jantar Mantar and across the country, that the nation's unity remains intact, that no Indian student's future gets tangled in legal complexities, and that our children invest their time in studying and focusing on building their careers. Considering all of this, I've sent my resignation letter to the Honorable Prime Minister. In fact, there's an important part of the statement which we need to look at a little bit more, because the translation seems to suggest that he said that to ensure that the future of Indian students does not get tangled in legal complexities, he's done what he's had to do, that is to resign. Now, the legal complexities that these student protesters, the CJP protesters and leaders were looking at, were worried about, were FIRs filed against protesters over there. They don't want any of those FIRs to be implemented. They want no further, FIRs to be done. So is this an indicator in the statement by the ex-education minister that, look, we understand the requirement for there not to be legal complexities. So is that perhaps an indicator of that? When I spoke to Ashutosh of the Cockroach Janata Party last night, he told me that there was an assurance that this would take place. There are others. Let's just listen into what some of the BJP leaders are now saying.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Vishnu, also breaking news coming in as we speak. JP Nadda and Jitendra Singh have reached the Constitution Club as we speak right now, and this is to attend the key meeting. All right, fresh visuals there coming in of the Union Minister JP Nadda and MOSPMO Jitendra Singh, who have reached the Constitution Club. Remember, this is the third round of talks that are going to be held between the government and the Cockroach Janata Party. There are other demands that have been kept now, Vishnu, as you were just reading it out, and let me just tell our viewers on the updated roster, as the CJP calls it, that they have submitted to the government on their fresh demands that they are expecting. Number one, of course, was the resignation of the Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, which has been completed. The other includes the compensation to the families of the victims who had who lost their lives after the NEET leak had happened. And the other two demands also are not imposing strict action on students that were a part of the protest. The fourth demand also includes the the apology coming in from the police and the RAF for allegedly brutally assaulting the students. So 4 key demands that have been placed by the CJP in their updated roster, as they call it, one of which has already been fulfilled, which is the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. The other 3 remain in contention. It is going to be decided in this meeting that's going to be taking place. In fact, it's already underway as we speak in the national capital. Vishnu, coming back to you on that, what is your analysis of the 3 demands that are still pending from the government side? The government has yet not given a green signal to accepting those 3 demands. Do you think it is a possibility that the other 3 demands of the CJP that they are demanding for the government could also see fulfillment?
No, so that is the key issue. I think there's certainly been conversations, because remember, the conversations between the government and the protesters, or the government and Sonam Wangchuk, have already taken place. We've seen letters from Sonam Wangchuk as well. The entire issue of compensation to the families of those killed who ended their lives by suicide as a result of the NEET exam failure this time around is something that has been discussed, and these student leaders seem to believe that that is something the government is on board about. But what they did say is that they want all of these points on a piece of paper. They wanted it in writing, and so that's an absolutely key sort of issue that they would certainly want. Whether that takes place now or not, we'll have to wait and see. But may I just suggest that I don't necessarily see all the protesters at Jantar Mantar moving away instantly, unless there is a very strong indicator from these student leaders, these CJP leaders, to actually do so. And I think that indication would come once they've got something on a piece of paper. Yes, as far as Dharmendra Pradhan is concerned, that's sorted out. But on the other 3 issues, an apology from the police, the entire issue of compensation that I've spoken about, and no FIRs being filed, they want that on a piece of paper. If they have that on a piece of paper, then I don't think that they would necessarily have any ground to continue their protests, which would be welcome, and people would go home at this stage, and which of course has nothing to do with the larger goals of the CJP, which are yet to be defined.
Yeah. Also, if we can see, we can get Aishwarya, who is currently at the Constitution Club, where the main meeting is happening. The CJP representatives have already reached there. The government Union Minister JP Nadda and Jitendra Singh, MO, have already reached there. The talks are underway. Yesterday, Vishnu, there were 2 rounds of talks that were held. There was deadlock, there was no breakthrough, after which the 3rd round of talks are being held. Vishnu, what do you see forward, just in case the issues, the demands are not fulfilled that the CJP is demanding from the government? Do you think the protest is going to intensify? Do you think the CJP is going to end protest and wait for the government's next move?
I think it's quite clear that, assuming that all of the things that the CJP is now demanding comes to them on a piece of paper, above the resignation of the Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, which has happened just now, if it comes to them on a piece of paper, they would end the protests, which have now been taking place in different parts of the country, but that this would be a pause before we see the contours or the shape or the political assertion of the CJP going forward. I don't believe that it's the beginning and the end of the CJP. I don't think when I spoke to them about the political future of the CJP yesterday, they seem to indicate that there is a future. They are going to do a lot more. The voices they represent are voices that they're not going to move away from. But what would happen with this round of the protest, the bulk of these protests taking place now, is that there would be a pause. It would enable the government to recalibrate, be nimble on its feet, re-gauge its political response to the CJP, to recognize what it needs to do, to understand the potential electoral threat in the future of what the CJP can achieve should they go down that way. And on the other hand, it would give the CJP time to regroup and to figure out what it is that they seek to do. They don't have the structure of the BJP. There is possibly no political party on earth which does. So the BJP, if they are seeing this as a valid political movement which could end up being a player in elections, would certainly be looking at what they need to do to counter this. I think the big thing that they would do in the interim period is ensure that they reach out to students much more, because there is a sense that they have lost out in terms of what students think about them. Young people, students, young professionals, the issue of education, of exams and of jobs as well, which is so critical. And it is important. Remember, we are a young country. Our future, our progress, our economic growth depends on our demographic dividend. This is the time for India to take advantage of these young people. In another 10, 15 years from now, they will no longer be young. So the bulk of the growth that India seeks to do needs to be done now for us to have any hope of becoming a developed nation, which is why any government in power, the BJP in this case, has to ensure that they're nimble in dealing with students, which is what they're trying to do now, belatedly, but they are trying to do it.
Yeah. Also, Vishnu, the government hasn't yet technically and formally accepted the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, but that is no question. I mean, it's going to be accepted anytime soon now, maybe soon after the talks get over. But who do you think is likely to be the interim education minister? And above all of that, is there going to be a major reshuffle in the cabinet also that we can see in the coming future?
Well, there's been talk of a cabinet reshuffle now for a period of time, and whether who replaces Dharmendra Pradhan is not something I can sort of venture a guess on right now. But in the education ministry, we already have a new education secretary, and now we're going to have a new education minister. The education portfolio is a very, very important one. In all of this, there's just a little bit of news which is coming in from the Delhi police. Citizens are advised to avoid traveling towards the New Delhi area due to heavy traffic and high traffic congestion observed across the district. Commuters should use alternative routes to prevent delays and ensure a hassle-free journey. Yesterday, when I spent several hours in Jantar Mantar, where we did left, right, center, I noticed that towards the evening, getting on to the night, in other words, after about 8 p.m. in the evening, the number of protesters or people who were just joining in, people who just wanted to see what it was all about, had started going up. It was difficult to even breathe over there because it was as congested as it was. There was always a sense, and this is what the Cockroach Janata Party told me yesterday, that they would likely see a large number of, many more people in fact, land up today. Now after this huge victory of theirs with the education minister having sent in his letter of resignation to the police, to the Prime Minister, the police are now advising people not to travel towards the New Delhi area because of heavy crowds. So perhaps we are seeing very large crowds building up in that area.
Yeah. Vishnu, request you to stay with me because I'm also being joined by my colleague Soumya. Soumya, where are you at this point in time, and what are you learning as far as the CJP and government talks are concerned? What are the talks regarding now, keeping in mind that the main demand has already been fulfilled? How far is it going?
Well, see, Tanisha, I was at Janpath. I spoke to the protesters. First, I'd like to begin with that the spirits were high. They were celebrating. The entire crowd, it was swelling up. They had crossed the barricades. Police and RAF officials had taken a step back. They were just celebrating. Now, when it comes to what is next, what lies ahead of CJP, now that there is this third round of talks between the government and the CJP delegation underway. See, there were in principle agreement given to the demands that were made yesterday. The two of the demands, one being the 1 crore being given to the families of the students who lost their lives because of the NEET leak, and also the withdrawal of the FIRs against the protesting students. Now, yesterday, JP Nadda had also given the confirmation around that, and post that we had the CJP delegation, which includes Saurabh Das and also Ashutosh Ranka, confirming that a principal approval has been given. Now, in written is what is expected today. With that, they have added one more condition, one more demand here, which is one of the most important demands here, and the same was reiterated earlier today by Rahul Gandhi as well, that the RAF and the Delhi police should apologize to the protesters, to the students who were protesting on 28th of July when this Sansad Chalo march happened and lathi charge happened, pellet guns were shot. So this is the fourth demand, the new demand that has been added to the list, an updated list of demands. So what is expected are these points that they will be asking the written assurances around that, the reform charter that was given to the union government, the ministers JP Nadda and MOS PMO Dr. Jitendra Singh. So in all these regards, they will be getting what is expected is that they will be getting a written confirmation in all likelihood.
Soumya, Vishnu, both of us staying live with us. I'm also being joined by my colleague Ankit, who is reporting, I believe, outside the Constitution Club. Ankit, I see a lot of action that's happening behind your back. Take us through what's happening. What are the deployment like, and any details that you're getting as far as the talks is concerned?
Well, as soon as you spoke, there is some sort of a development that is taking place here, and I will show you the police and the paramilitary which is present here is making a circle. They are making a cordon of sorts. It seems that the third meeting, which has come at a very significant time after a very significant announcement of the resignation of the education minister, the key demand, the thing which was where the key was stuck yesterday, and after that this meeting is coming through. So this meeting seemed to have been a very short meeting. At least that is what the sense that we are getting at this moment. It seems that the government, more or less, their only sticking point was the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, and after getting that out of the big way, everything else becomes easier as far as the government is concerned, with respect to the other demands which have been put forward by the CJP and the protesters, those who have been going on. Remember, it's been a sustained pressure, not just, of course, by the youth, which in fact got everybody else also involved, whether it's the opposition parties, especially the Congress, which has been going on. Rahul Gandhi, for the last 4 days, since that Lathi charge took place on the 20th, sustained pressure from that end. Number of people, despite the internet being snapped, all the other problems that the young were facing in trying to come back to Jantar Mantar spot. Despite all that, there has been a steady stream of people, those who have been coming in, and finally the government relenting. And make no mistake about one thing, this is not a small event. Well, in the last 12 years of this government, there will be hardly any this kind of protest or these kind of events which you can count on your fingers where the government actually relented. And technically, this is the only second resignation that has happened in this in some sort of a pressure as far as the government is concerned. One was MJ Akbar. He was the MOS External Affairs when he had to quit when the Me Too movement was on. And the second to that is only Dharmendra Pradhan, who had to quit after sustained pressure of over a month as far as the NEET irregularities are concerned. Rest, there have been ministers, those who have been shuffled out, have been shown the door, but all that has happened at the will of the government and in the various reshuffles that have taken place till yesterday. And remember, while we were continuously covering this protest, yesterday in the evening, late till in the evening, and we broke this at 6 o'clock, that the government sources were at that point of time not convinced. They didn't want the resignation to happen because they thought it is going to open the floodgates. But now, with no way forward, everything stuck, it's the youth, their resilience that the government eventually had to listen to, and Dharmendra Pradhan today sent his resignation just before this very crucial meeting, which is taking place here in the heart of the national capital. Let me show you where the meeting, in fact, venue is at the Constitution Club, where the massive police presence you would also see. So we are expecting not only a word from the CJP, which has said, of course, they have declared victory. They have also said that there are 3 more demands after this that they want to be fulfilled. And only after that, there can be a call for people to go from here. Remember, from 20th to now, every single day, 16 to 18, metro stations have been shut. It has caused a lot of problems of mobility, not only for people, those who want to participate in the protest, but also other office goers in the peak office days from Monday to Friday. So all those things have, in fact, now got the government to relent as far as Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is concerned. And now we'll have to wait and see what happens from here and how quickly are these young protesters, in fact, able to evacuate or able to relieve the spot of what they will call, and remember, as their victory.
Yes, absolutely. Ankit, and like you were telling us the 4 demands, in fact, just a short while back, we got this tweet from the CJP official handle where they said there are 4 demands. It's an updated roster that they are putting out. Number 1, of course, being the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, which is completed. Second, being rupees 1 crore compensation to the families of all those students who died by suicide. Number 3rd was no action against any of the student protesters. And number 4th was a public apology from the police and the RAF for the July 20 incident that happened. Now, Ankit, as far as you've been on ground, you've been at the Jantar Mantar, at the heart of the protest. You've also tracked the government's move. Keeping in mind the updated demands of the CJP, do you think that there could be a deadlock as far as the last 2 demands of the CJP are concerned, being one, of course, of no action against the student protesters and an apology from the police and the RAF?
I don't feel that there is going to be much that the government would be, in fact, worried about the other few demands. The language could be different, and we'll also have to wait and see whether there is some flexibility shown by the CJP leaders as far as how that happens. Because, you know, as far as the compensation is concerned, I don't think the government would have much problem as far as the compensation goes. Government has already said and given in written assurance to Sonam Wangchuk that all the protesters, the peaceful protesters, will not be prosecuted, will not be hounded. I don't think that the government will have a problem with that. As far as the apology from the Delhi police or the RAF is concerned, that could be something that the government possibly can talk, maybe ask that, they will investigate or form a commission or something to that impact. We will have to wait and see how flexible CJP is on that. But the other few demands are not as problematic as far as the first one was, and that was the one which the government waited for. And when it saw that it is only going up, the crescendo is only building, especially after what happened on 20th of July, they had to relent. Aishwarya, who covers the Parliament and the Prime Minister's office for us, is joining me here. Aishwarya, we were just discussing about the fact the sticking point was Dharmendra Pradhan's residence. Till late in the evening, the sources in the government were not sure whether what is happening. So clearly, a lot of water has gone down the bridge. The assessment of the government has changed since the morning to, of course, before this meeting when Dharmendra Pradhan announced his resignation. The other 3 demands, including the apology from Delhi police and the RAF, that doesn't seem to be something that the government would be very adamant about. I mean, it's just a matter of wording, isn't it?
Well, certainly, government sources are clearly telling us that these demands are very fruitful to conceive, and certainly they will fulfill all those demands that have been now put out by the CJP. Of course, Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation was the most tough one for the government to call in, and they have admitted to it. But there were several, developments that have happened throughout the day as well. It was Home Minister Amit Shah who met Prime Minister Narendra Modi this morning. Post that, it was JP Nadda and Jitendra Singh before arriving at the CCI. They met the Home Minister as well, and that's what the, sequence of events we have seen in the past as well. They met Home Minister when they went to Sonam Wangchuk as well. So yes, the government has been saying that they are very sensitive towards the issues, demands of the students, and therefore the reason they have completely agreed with. And in this particular meeting, now what the sources are revealing to us, it's the 2 union ministers who are urging the CJP that they should immediately vacate Jantar Mantar, and they should also call off their protest just not at the Jantar Mantar but all across the country as well. And all of those demands will be met, including the compensation.
So what Aishwarya is telling us is also very important to understand how the government's thinking has been as far as this protest is concerned. Now, one part of the problem why the government was not able to tame or in a matter of fact was able to reach out to the protesters is the language of this protest. The people, those who are under 30 years old, they required nothing else, no traditional source of communication. Instagram was something that they communicated along with, and with that, how they completely changed this protest to for more or less, something that became very, very cool, and that became organic. So what happened was that if a friend was here and made out a reel and put out a reel on Instagram, his followers, his friends also thought that is something cool. So the fear of missing out on this cool reel making opportunity also fueled a lot of people, and that became exponential. That is something that you can't stop. And this is exactly why the government has in fact eventually relented to what the students wanted. What you are seeing on your screens, ladies and gentlemen, are the visuals coming in from where I'm standing. I'm standing outside the Constitution Club. Inside on the first floor is where the meeting is in fact taking place, and those visuals are of the government minister. One side is of course JP Nadda, the health minister, and Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, Jitendra Singh, meeting Asutosh Ranka and Saurav Das, the representative of the CJP. So these are the visuals of this very, very important meeting. Remember, it's been 3 meetings that have taken place as in this entire protest, which has been over a month, trickling in, people coming and going. For the first 20-25 days, not much of the activity, but the day Sonam Wangchuk was picked up on the 19th, and then of course the next day the march took place. That changed the whole
scenario. In fact, Ankit, yes, and like you were just, Ankit, yes, just stay with me, Ankit, because on our screens right now we are flashing that picture of the meeting that is being held inside the Constitution Club, where my colleague Ankit and Aishwarya are just reporting. Ankit, we see Saurav Das along with the other representative of the Cockroach Janata Party, along with MOSPMO Jitendra Singh and JP Nadda as well. The body language seems calm, composed, and there is a slight smile on Saurav Das's face, if I can just see and zoom into that. And the government side also looks extremely calm if we talk about the body language. So I believe the talks are moving forward in a positive direction, Ankit?
I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but like you were describing the picture, Aishwarya just showed me this picture as well. I will tell you something very, very interesting as well. Yeah. Yesterday, when the pictures of the meeting came out, the ministers were sitting on a sofa and both these gentlemen were on a chair. Today, those dynamics have also been changed. Yes. It's almost a conversation between, sort of equals, which is taking place here. So we will have to wait and see exactly what comes out. But of course, they are relieved, because yesterday when they came out, the sticking point was the resignation of the Education Minister. And while, I went to Jantar Mantar yesterday and spoke to Saurav Das and Abhijit Dipke, they said that is something that is non-negotiable. If tomorrow by 3:30 the resignation doesn't take place, there will be a wider call across the country. They already have asked their supporters across the country to start a candle march, that will be today and tomorrow. So the government would want at this moment, through these assurances, possibly the CJP protesters would want that they should be given written assurances of what the government is saying. And after that, the government would want not only the protest site of Jantar Mantar to be vacated, but the protests across the country to be called off. So some sort of messaging going from, Saurav Das, Abhijit Dipke and Asutosh Ranka, especially on their Instagram handle, that has become the most important political, if I may call political capital as far as the CJP is concerned. More than 24 million followers on that. They are reaching out to the young as far as that Instagram handle is concerned. To the government would want the messaging to go from there so that the protests across the country can be called off. And so is Jantar Mantar is vacated soon as well. What will be the way it will be done? Because, from here on, you also could understand that despite the crackdown, despite metro stations being closed and, reports of food delivery apps not delivering there and so forth, people were still coming in. And coupled with that, the pressure inside the parliament, outside the parliament by the opposition parties. Mamata Banerjee announced that on Monday she's going to join the protest as well. So for this, instead from 20th, for this to ebb, it was only going in a different direction. So that is why I said 20th July was the pivot. And through that, now the government has also in a way agreed, understood that the longer it goes, the longer it is going to be problematic for the government. If the resignation would have taken another week, it would have only taken more embarrassment and more, in fact, coverage of this kind as far as this protest is concerned. And hence, Dharmendra Pradhan finally has relented. And with that, I now think things are going to wrap up very, very quickly. It is going to be a very quick move from here. The future for CJP and all, that's a debate for a different day. But at this moment, it seems that the way things are happening here, things could, in next couple of hours, take a very different direction, in a positive way from Jantar Mantar and across the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Ankit, stay with me. Vishnu is also continuing to stay live with us. Vishnu, what do you make out of the picture, the first pictures of the CJP and the government meeting that have just come out? And like you were pointing out, the CJP, the protesters want everything in written format, no verbal communication. And I believe the same is being conveyed in the picture there as well.
I think that picture is important. It shows Saurav Das, one of the spokespersons of the Cockroach Janata Party, smiling. He's got Akhilesh sitting to his left, and you've got two very serious-looking union ministers, JP Nadda and the minister in the Prime Minister's office, Mr. Jitendra Singh. These have been the interlocutors between the government and the Cockroach Janata Party. The piece of paper that lies over there, will there be some sort of statement which is actually written out there and signed by all parties? I don't think it's going to be as informal as that. I think the Cockroach Janata Party leaders would want something more specific from the government, and I think the government would want something written from them as well. And therefore, I think what Ankit was saying is important, that there is a sense that this could now, this round of protests and this particular issue could be dealt with effectively, and the protests that we now see could come to an end very soon indeed, perhaps this evening itself. But I think it's at the end of this meeting, and depending on how quickly the government meets and that there is this agreement on a piece of paper, something that is formalized, that these leaders would go back over there. There's a lot of traffic building in the heart of Delhi. The police have sounded advisories. They will declare a massive victory over there, and then progressively people would start moving out. That's a best case situation. If there is no agreement now, then there is that possibility of numbers building. And then there's already been a round of violence, unfortunately, which has taken place after the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, the education minister, a couple of hours back. So we don't want any more of that. The police would certainly be very stretched. We want an agreement to be arrived at and peace on all sides, at least for this round of these protests to come to an end. As Ankit said, what happens in the future with the CJP is another story.
Absolutely. Vishnu, Ankit staying with us on the broadcast. Ankit, just in case, we and Vishnu are also speaking about, just in case there's no breakthrough from the talks that is currently underway, what are you expecting? Will Jantar Mantar see more of student protesters? Will the protests intensify? Will the students? All right. We are getting in government's first response after Dharmendra Pradhan's exit. This is the BJP president, I believe, Nitin Nabin, who has put out a statement regarding the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. Nitin Nabin has said that the resignation reflects integrity and that the party is behind Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. All right, so the first government response coming in there after Dharmendra Pradhan's exit, the national BJP chief Nitin Nabin has put out a statement. He has said that we are standing with the education minister, that we are standing with the decision that Dharmendra Pradhan has taken, and that the party will always be supporting him in whatever means and whatever decision that he takes. That's a big move that has come in, brought the government first official response. Ankit continues to stay with me on the broadcast. Ankit, what do you make out of the first government statement? It seems like the government will officially also very soon accept the resignation of the education minister.
See, a lot of people have been speaking about this. The situation where it was stuck, the resignation of the Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan was something that had become untenable. But it had to happen. The only question was, when does it? Now, of course, it's all part of the messaging. The government would not want to, in fact, be seen as completely being cornered and pushed for this. That is why they didn't want to embarrass, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan by asking for the resignation. They want to give that opportunity for Mr. Pradhan. He has now said that he takes the moral responsibility. And while doing that, at this moment, the entire messaging from the BJP and his cabinet colleagues has been to hail this move as something that Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan has done on his own volition. It's not that he has been pushed. He has done this on his own volition. I'm only talking about the messaging that the government would want to, in fact, send out at this moment. And with Nitin Nabin, the BJP president, also speaking about it, they would also want to show that their government is responsive. When they saw that there are students are demanding this kind of a protest, they want the resignation. The government has risen to the occasion and has asked for the resignation for Dharmendra Pradhan. But there is one more very interesting thing to note in this. While everybody is talking about the great sacrifice of Mr. Pradhan by resigning and also saying that the government is responsive, they want to make a very important political line here, that the pressure, if any, was of the students. The government is listening to the students. The government is listening to the young people of this country. They don't want to give an inch of credit as far as the opposition is concerned. And that is a very important differentiation that the government would want to say at this moment.
Absolutely.
The messaging also would be that you wanted resignation, fixed accountability. That has happened. And we are doing much, much more than that.
Yes.
NTA is being fixed. The whole system is being fixed. That's the messaging at least the government would want to send across at this moment.
Yes. In fact, Vishnu, talking about the opposition, like Ankit was telling us, well, the opposition went after the government lock, stock and barrel to, ensure that the controversy is completely highlighted, not just on the streets, but also in the parliament. Keeping in mind that the Monday will be the working day of the parliament after the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, are we now expecting fruitful decisions to take place and not, adjourning of the sessions like it has been for the past 1 week?
Well, I think we're going to have to wait till Monday to see what really takes place. I think what I'd like to wait and see first is what happens this evening. These talks are now taking place. There needs to be a formalized agreement between both sides. The government can also make demands, as the CJP is, to have stuff written down on a piece of paper. The government would want them to end their protests right away. And on the basis of this, let's actually see what takes place. I think what the government has proposed, and I again put this to the CJP yesterday, is on new laws and rules which amend, for example, punishments to those who are involved in the leak of examination papers. I think this is very welcome. I don't think there's any dispute in that. In fact, there were 5 points which the government had, in fact, discussed with the CJP leaders when it comes to reform of the exam system in the country. So if that gets carried forward, if there are amendments to the existing laws or a new bill itself, which actually ends this malaise which we've faced in this country for many, many years now, on exam leaks, then that goes a long way in sorting out the education system at one level. There are many other concerns, of course, as far as the education system is concerned. In speaking to so many protesters, and not just protesters, people who just come in over there at Jantar Mantar in the heat and the humidity and just to see what was taking place, is that they want the futures of their children to be secure. They want the future, their own futures, professional futures to be secure. They want to ensure that there are jobs. They want to ensure that they have places in college. So these are young people across various age groups who want rights. Ankit has a point. Go ahead, Ankit.
Vishnu, just as you were speaking, because you've also reported from here and we know how difficult it was without internet, let me tell you, in the central Delhi area, there is the restoration process of internet which has begun. Suddenly we have, after being in dark in this entire area for the last few days, WhatsApp messages ringing in. Ashwarya, also you were telling us some important announcements are being made by Delhi police, because Vishnu, remember, whatever happens here, and hopefully it will be positive, and after declaring victory and some song and dance, all these protesters would be going back, but the numbers are increasing. A lot of people want to come to Jantar Mantar and celebrate. Ashwarya, you were telling us that the Delhi police already is making announcements there.
Like our colleague Mukesh Singh Sengar is right there at Jantar Mantar, and he has been telling that Delhi police is continuously announcing on the speakers that students should vacate Jantar Mantar. The metro station has now been open and most of the students are now leaving Jantar Mantar after the resignation and the victory being announced by Abhijit Deepke at Jantar Mantar as well. Mobile services, the internet services have been restored in and around central Delhi, and that's one point that Rahul Gandhi also raised this morning, tweeting that mobile services have been shut, metro stations are being closed, and people are facing a lot of problems in this vicinity. But certainly now things are getting back to normal is something that we are witnessing right now after the resignation that happened of Dharmendra Pradhan.
It will take some time, of course. Remember, for many days there had been restrictions and there are so many people at Jantar Mantar. Don't expect that to in fact be completely vacated in just the next half hour or so. You will have to give it tonight for it to be completely vacated, people to go off from there, because remember, once they come out of this place, whatever the government and the CJP has decided, whatever the decision and agreement is, they will have to go back to the same crowd in Jantar Mantar, announce it for the people and go on a high. They would want to claim a massive victory. Abhijit Deepke and others would also make statements. There is going to be a lot of song and dance about it, because this is genuinely, they would want to send all their supporters back home by saying that you have won a massive victory because you've been here. You've got the government to, in fact, agree to your demands. So you will have to give it some time. But yes, early signs that there are now positivity, which is moving as far as this area is concerned, and the internet being restored. because in and around Jantar Mantar, in 2-kilometer radius area of central Delhi, there was no internet. You could only make normal telephone calls, but there were no WhatsApp, no messaging, nothing else.
Yes.
Now that...
Yes, in fact, Ankit, stay with me. We're getting in one more set of breaking news that's coming in. Reaction coming in from Rahul Gandhi, the leader of opposition, where he said that the resignation is the first step towards reform. He's congratulated the students. In fact, he's also gone ahead in a lengthy statement. He has said that there are two demands that are still remaining. Number one is the Prime Minister's apology while respecting the students. And he has also said that those found guilty against violence against students must also be booked. Reaction coming in from Rahul Gandhi. Let's listen in.
Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation is a huge step in rebuilding our education system. It's a symbolic step because he was a symbol, but it is still a big step. And I want to congratulate every single student, every single youngster who came out on the streets and fought for democracy, fought for the future of this country, and defended the Constitution. I'm proud of you. Well done. It's also a signal to other parts of society, farmers, laborers, poor people, anybody who this regime is attacking and oppressing. There is wisdom and courage in standing up. Daro mat, let's get rid of this regime that is attacking India, destroying our constitution, capturing all our institutions. Let me remind the government, there is still two demands outstanding. The first one, and most important one, anybody who has raised a finger on our students, beaten them, shot at them, has to be held accountable. People who've organized it, people who've implemented it, all have to be punished. And the final demand, that the Prime Minister of India, out of respect for the students of India, out of respect for the future of India, has to apologize to the students who were brutalized and attacked. Thank you. Jai Hind.
All right, first reaction coming in there from the leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi. Ankit and Vishnu continue to stay with us. Vishnu, I would want to come to you on that. Well, first and foremost thing is that it seems that the leader of opposition is not aligned with the protesters, because the kind of demands that he has placed and the kind of demands the CJP had uploaded in their updated roster do not simply align. Now, there are two, he's first gone ahead to thank the students, to congratulate the students. In the end, when we come to the end of the statement, he said that the time has come to remove the government. It seems like the government is not willing to bow down. It seems that the parliament sessions will only get more stormy in the coming days. Vishnu?
No, I think what Rahul Gandhi had to say is that he wants an apology from the Prime Minister. That was perhaps the key part of what he said. The other things, were fairly par for course. The protesters have not so far said that. All they want is an apology from the Rapid Action Force and the Delhi Police. Now, the Congress Party, remember, was not a part of these protests which have been taking place in Jantar Mantar. Their leaders started belatedly coming to that site. The Congress Janata Party, in fact, they had their own protests outside the Prime Minister's residence a couple of days back. When I asked the CJP whether their movement and their cause was being usurped in a sense by the Congress Party, they said that no, in fact, they welcome any opposition parties who decide to come on board. So we've seen Trinamool Congress leaders. I saw Moa Moitra there yesterday, Kollar Banerjee as well. There have been Congress leaders, Samajwadi Party leaders. We've seen Omar Abdullah also go into that area. So we've seen a lot of opposition leaders get in as far as this is concerned. But an apology from the Prime Minister is not something that has been publicly sort of looked at so far. And if they keep raising their demands at this juncture, as we actually see footage now of the meetings taking place at Constitutional Club, Ashutosh and Saurabh Das representing the CJP, Jitendra Singh and JP Nadda representing the BJP and the government. If they increase their demands at this stage, then it's going to get messy, because the numbers are genuinely large at this stage in central Delhi. There have been tweets by the Delhi government as well saying that, look, please do not head to that particular area. The metro has been reopened. That's an important message. And I believe that the internet is sort of coming back to life in that area. Remember, that was also restricted. Basically, if connectivity is enhanced, then people get the message that, look, it's over, the metro is back, please start leaving now, because there is a law and order concern in that particular area. They wanted to peacefully end. I think we will get a clear idea of where this is headed in the next couple of minutes when Saurabh and Ashutosh actually come out. Whether they take, questions from these ministers, we're going to have to wait and see. But you could be rest assured that there is going to be some sort of a massive victory announcement or an announcement, I should say, at Jantar Mantar in a little while from now. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens. You see smiles on their face over there, and a rather stern-looking JP Nadda and Jitendra Singh. It sort of reflects, where this is all ended up. But what will happen now is that written agreement. We're going to have to wait and see. So that's what we are waiting for. There should be sound bites as they get out, and Ankit is over there. As they get out of Constitution Club where these talks are taking place.
Keith, coming back to you on that, and in just a short while from now, we'll also be joined by a political editor, Vasudha, on the broadcast. But Ankit, I would want to come back to you because we've just gotten visuals of the meeting that is being held inside the Constitution Club. Let's just describe to our viewers on the kind of body language, the kind of expressions that are there. On one side, as I can see, that the government side, which is being represented by Jitendra Singh, MOS, PMO, and Union Minister JP Nadda, they look serious, they have a serious look on their face, whereas when we talk about Saurav Das, when you talk about the CJP representatives, they look relaxed, they feel positive about the whole situation. Third round of talks that are being held. Yesterday, there were 2 rounds of talks that were already done. There was a deadlock, there was no breakthrough. Soon after which, the third round of talks is being held. It's underway as we speak. Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation demand has already been expected. Ankit, what are you picking up? You're there where the action is.
We got to understand, this is the third meeting, but just understand the context and the chronology of how things have happened. The first meeting took place only after the clashes on the 20th of July. That was when these 2 gentlemen from the CJP were called to the residence of JP Nadda, the union minister, where they spent 4 to 5 hours and came out and said nothing is happening. The government has only said that they will come back to it. Second happened when the government relented. Government relented for a neutral venue conversation, and this was the place where the conversation took place yesterday, where more or less the government said we are in agreement with all the other demands except JP Nadda's, except Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. And third meeting is happening after Dharmendra Pradhan has already resigned. So now, as far as the Cockroach Junta Party is concerned, the CJP representatives are concerned, the biggest hurdle has been, in fact, overcome. Rest, everything is a matter of government and their understanding in a written manner so that they can go back and tell the protester that, listen, it was just not about the resignation of the minister, but we are now moving towards systematic changes as far as education is concerned, plus helping those who had laid down or who died by suicide after the paper was leaked. So accountability on one hand, compensation on the other, and apart from that, a way to move forward is something that the CJP would want to celebrate, and so will the government. The government will say we are being responsive, we have heard to what the people have been saying and heeded to their demand. But while you were asking that questions about the demands which have been raised by Rahul Gandhi, of course, slightly different from what the CJP has said, taking it, because remember the CJP is also asking for apology from Delhi police and the RAF. Rahul Gandhi taking it to the question of how the people were dealt in the last 30 days. The fact is that despite all the conversation around whether there are differences, why is Rahul Gandhi not going to Jantar Mantar, the fact is that the young of this country, the youth of this country, the people, those who are in their 18 to 25, they are the ones, those who have forced. They have forced not. The movement became much bigger than Sonam Wangchuk, then the CJP, then the opposition, even the media. They forced everybody to follow their agenda, and that's their victory. So, the politics and how it will play out on Monday will be one part of it, because the opposition, and dare I say, was able to put their weight behind a demand that the people were making. Because remember, a lot of times in the last 12-15 years, we have only heard, the opposition is also tone deaf. They don't understand the issues of the people. And where is the opposition? This time they were also able to come onto the street in whatever way they could, whether it's the Aam Aadmi Party, the Samajwadi Party, the Congress, all of them were able to galvanize behind an issue that everybody would feel they have forced the government to act. And that is something that a bigger takeaway of all these people. Let me very quickly show you. This is the entrance of the Constitution Club where the meeting is taking place at this moment. Last time, that is yesterday, this kind of arrangement was not made. So as soon as the meeting got over, there was massive chaos. Learning from that, today a full cordon has been created where the ministers and the CJP spokesperson will come and present their point of view of what happened in those talks, which I don't suspect much of friction that is going to take place. Aishwarya, as we were talking about the developments here and the other three demands, Rahul Gandhi has his own demand of Prime Minister's apology. That is something that they will fight it out in the Parliament, I'm sure. But the fact is that this is something that everybody from opposition to the protesters to CJP will sort of take claim as victory, playing the part that they did. The other three demands, do you feel that they are going to be a sticking point, or is just about a matter of how they are worded and what is said?
Well, the CJP has made it very clear that they want a written assurance on the demands that have been put out. And after the resignation, they have put out a tweet stating that one demand is now, confirmed by the government. Three demands are still pending. So they want these three demands. Of course, one, I think the Delhi police or RAF, putting out that unconditional apology in public, and Rahul Gandhi saying that Prime Minister should apologize to the nation. It is quite difficult to have on paper, but the government will now move forward from all of this because the major one was the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. That is accepted. One of the major, another piece of news that I'm getting from the Lok Sabha is that the bill has already been listed for Monday, which is the Public Examination Prevention of Unfair Means Amendment Bill 2026 that will be tabled by Dr. Jitendra Singh, that comes under DOPT. And remember,
this is a very important news, and this is a big breaking story that we are bringing you here on NDTV. Aishwarya Jain, my colleague, breaking for our viewers that the government is very swift in moving. On Monday, they will present the new bill, to be, in fact, for the consideration of the Parliament to be made into an act for unfair means for paper leaks and the new, in fact, ways that the government is, in fact, planning to counter it. Remember, Saurav Das, the CJP spokesperson, had earlier said that, they are bringing this in a hurry. We want a robust discussion as far as this bill is concerned. But this is the government also trying to now get ahead of the messaging curve as far as they are concerned, trying to tell that it is just not, we won't stop at the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan. We actually are doing something that people can take back home as systemic changes.
Well, certainly the government is acting on policy, on administration, and also on the reforms at the same time when dialogue is happening with the CJP. The Congress and opposition parties clearly stated that they will not have a discussion until and unless Dharmendra Pradhan resigns. Now, there are two more demands that have been put forward by Rahul Gandhi. It would be very interesting to see whether now they will be in the Parliament having a fruitful discussion, debate, a constructive one that the government is looking forward to. But it is a written assurance that the CJP is still asking from the government to put forward.
I think of all the other four demands that the CJP has put, except the unconditional apology, and I have a feeling that the government and the spokesperson there will find a way around it, because if the government agrees to all the other demands, whether it is compensation or the resignation has already been fulfilled, CJP will find it very, very difficult to just go and tell people that, 90% of our demands have been met. Just one apology from Delhi police is something which the government is not agreeing, and that is then become a little bit difficult for their supporters to palate, because not everybody here possibly is going to rally behind that demand. Yes. There is a way, possibly they will find a way to form a commission of what happened on that day, inquiry on high-handedness of the police. That is something that the government could be agreeable about, but I don't see at this moment major hurdles as far as the movement forward is concerned between the government and the protesters represented by the CJP in these talks that are taking place here.
Right. Ankit, our political editor, Vasudha, is also joining us on the broadcast. Vasudha, what do you make out of the whole situation? 2 rounds of talks held. It was a deadlock. Third round, which is underway. What are you expecting?
Tanisha, Vishnu and Ankit, this is unprecedented. As somebody who's been covering the government for several years, I've not seen a sitting minister of the Modi government resign because he's been surrounded by controversies. This is a political decision that the government has taken, one of a kind, very unusual in the Modi government. The last time I heard something like this happening was MJ Akbar resigning due to Me Too allegations. And, you know, this time it's Dharmendra Pradhan. It was expected at some level, but remember, Dharmendra Pradhan is a heavyweight. He's a political heavyweight, comes from a political family, was once to be the, Chief Minister of Odisha, also speculated wants to be the president of, the BJP. Clearly a heavyweight, not an easy decision for the BJP to make, but they've done this. The government has done this, and according to my sources, the Prime Minister himself has taken this call, which also means that this movement has struck a chord somewhere. The government wants to make it very clear that it does not alienate any youngsters. This is the most important demographic potential that we have, the most important strength that the country has, and probably the government also wants to make it clear that it wants to send out the right message. Vishnu, you've been going to Jantar Mantar so often. Tell us, did you expect this to happen? Because for a lot of us who cover the BJP and government, the party asking Dharmendra Pradhan to step down was an impossibility. But, we also felt that he could possibly resign on his own. We didn't see this coming as soon as today. This also means that probably the government felt that all the outreach that it was doing with regard to youngsters was probably falling short at some level.
No, I think when I was there till quite late in the evening last night, and I saw that the numbers were only building up. It was going up. There was no, there was no slowing down. In the morning yesterday, remember there was a message from Sonam Wangchuk that look, let there be compensation which is paid to the families of those students who died by suicide and NEET. Let there be no FIRs. But there wasn't that very obvious message of let the education minister has to resign. To which the students, of course, said that thank you very much, sir. You've been a key part of this entire protest, but we are going nowhere. And it just seemed to me that there was more support building for the students. In his interview to me yesterday, Ashutosh, I beg your pardon, Ashutosh of the Cockroach Janata Party said that they expected very large numbers over the weekend, and they expected numbers all across the country as well. I think the BJP is now acting because they believe that there is some sort of merit in that argument, that the support for this movement is only going up. It's not ending. It's not sort of at a standstill. It's not a neither here nor there as far as young people in this country are concerned, whether they are young professionals or students, which is why I think that the government has acted with a great deal of speed after deciding or giving indicators that they're willing to do that. Yes, that resignation letter of Dharmendra Pradhan was a surprise, but you make the point that this is obviously a decision which has been taken quite quickly by the BJP because they saw the writing on the wall. My own reading of this from a political standpoint is that if this all works out, if these two young boys, and they're very young, both of them, go back over there and then declare that, we've got all of these agreements, we've got it in writing, and if the BJP gets in writing from them that they're ending their protests, then all that will take place is that this round of protests will end. It will be pause for the CJP, and it will be pause for the BJP as well, for both sides to actually recalibrate their positions, see what they want to do going forward. The BJP is very nimble on its feet. They will be reacting and they will be addressing what they themselves feel is a problem. They are unable to get through quite effectively to that Instagram generation of young Indians. The CJP will be deciding what their larger political agenda is. They're not quite a political party, in the way that some would perhaps want them to be. So they would be using this as a strategic pause. But I think the larger contours of a BJP battle against a new political force is something that's going to be defined in the months, perhaps years ahead.
Right. Vishnu and Ankit, in fact, I should admit that these protests have also made me think how little I know about, what the Gen Z actually wants. And probably this is also the government trying to attempt to make sense of what kind of demands that youngsters of the country have and what probably is the best way to reach out to them, which is why they probably tried a lot of things. The resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan has also happened today, which means that the government is extremely serious about not alienating any section of the youth. It's time for a short break. We'll be back in just a bit.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरी डे। India Inc.'s most respected names chose India Inc.'s best and brightest.
These kind of awards and jury lineup, you are truly giving it the right weightage. I think it's heartening to see talent that there is in across India Inc.
We should be awarding companies and individuals who have focused not only on growth but also on bringing good governance.
Be part of jury and vote on the people, the men, the women, the companies in India who have the right stuff is a great opportunity for us.
For us, the biggest thing is trust. That's what we provide.
We need leaders in India that can help take India being a global superpower.
We got a fantastic jury and we've left all decisions to the wisdom of the jury.
Who will earn India's top business honors? Find out at the NDTV Profit Business Leadership Awards.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा, मसाला।
When others are warming up, I'm raring to go. The stories that matter, the stories that shape your life.
Hello and welcome to watching Prime 5 with me, Raisha Sehgal. What's happening? How to do?
The show that sets the prime time agenda.
We'll be deep diving into this topic to tell you what's at stake.
Join me, Raisha Sehgal, on Prime 5 only on NDTV 24/7.
India is at a 2030 turning point. EVs, hybrids, biofuels or hydrogen, what fuel wins where? Join top auto CEOs, policy experts and industry titans at the NDTV Automate Fuel and Future Summit 2026.
Where you need charging infrastructure, you need it on highways.
Catch the exclusive coverage only on NDTV.
मीठा या नमकीन, चाहे जैसे खाओ, 100% सूजी से बनी आर प्योर वर्मिसेली, स्वादिष्ट, सेहतमंद हर रोज।
ये युग तुम्हारा, ये रण तुम्हारा, हर चुनौती तुम्हारी, हर शिखर तुम्हारा, तुम ही हो भारत का स्वाभिमान।
हर सेक्टर, हर स्टेट, हर रीजन, हर उम्र के इनोवेटर्स ने दिया जबरदस्त प्रतिसाद, तभी तो वंदे भारतम में एप्लीकेशंस पहुँचे 25,000 के पार और रजिस्ट्रेशन डेडलाइन बढ़कर हुई है 30 जुलाई। आप भी भारत के सबसे बड़े ग्रास रूट इनोवेशन मूवमेंट से जुड़े। vandeBharatam.org पर रजिस्टर करें।
Launch control 0 to 100.
This isn't just about cars and bikes. This is about how you move. This car makes no sense, yet it makes every sense. What we are sitting inside is a Joby-powered air taxi. Your friend said, "Ye le le." We said, "Maybe not." Hi, my name is Siddharth Sharma. I'm your NDTV Automate, your ultimate guide into the world of automobiles and mobility.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा, मसाला।
From the newsroom to the studio to the thick of political action.
Now watching NDTV 24/7. The hope is that beyond this election, this will be one of the major issues. With multiple challengers in the fray, the TMC also has done a bit of rejig. Remember, this is also a district that has been plagued by communal violence. Come to some of the sabhas that the BJP is also organizing, especially in the villages of West Bengal.
When stories have impact.
Padmaja Joshi, managing editor and primetime anchor.
Then news has influence. The buck stops here with Padmaja Joshi.
Your work is being watched by people. You think that you're making an impact in this time. I think that's really a huge validation, very rewarding, and I'm pretty certain that Team NDTV will go from strength to strength.
और शाही पनीर मसाला। डिलीशियस, हेल्दी, एवरीडे।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो पतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
India Inc.'s most respected names chose India Inc.'s best and brightest.
These kind of awards and jury lineup, you are truly giving it the right weightage. I think it's heartening to see talent that there is in across India Inc.
We should be awarding companies and individuals who have focused not only on growth but also on bringing good governance.
Be part of jury and vote on the people, the men, the women, the companies in India who have the right stuff is a great opportunity for us.
For us, the biggest thing is trust. That's what we provide.
We need leaders in India that can help take India being a global superpower.
We've got a fantastic jury and we've left all decisions to the wisdom of the jury.
Who will earn India's top business honors? Find out at the NDTV Profit Business Leadership Awards.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरे राजा।
He has resigned because he does not want the youth of India to get misled by anti-national forces. Why did this happen? What led to this? We have all that for you and more. First up, the headlines. Education Dharmendra Pradhan resigns. Education Minister has cited moral grounds for his resignation, saying that students' future is paramount. Third round of talks underway between Cockroach Janata Party and government. Two senior ministers, JP Nadda and Dr. Jitendra Singh, now are meeting CJP members at the Constitution Club. As protests turn violent, human cost rises. NDTV speaks to injured police personnel who recount the chaos as both cops bear the brunt of the violence. Congress MP Rahul Gandhi congratulates protesting NEET students after Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. He says this is the first step towards revamping the education system of India. He further reminds the government that two demands are outstanding. Prime Minister Modi releases second edition of his Insta outreach video. He thanks India's youth for their support. He says that their trust is his biggest strength. Activist Sonam Wangchuk breaks silence on ending fast. He says his priority was protecting students from FIRs. He clarified that Pradhan's resignation was only one among several demands, and he says that he ended the fast after written assurances of no action against protesters. Well, Dharmendra Pradhan, sitting Education Minister of the Modi government, has resigned, taking moral responsibility of what is happening around him. He says that he does not want youngsters of India to get misled by anti-national forces. And this happens even as the third round of talks are underway between the government, two senior ministers, Dr. Jitendra Singh and JP Nadda, talking to Cockroach Janata Party members at the Constitution Club. Cockroach Janata Party leaders Ashutosh Ranka and Saurav Das are talking to Dr. Jitendra Singh and also JP Nadda. Now, this conversation, this deliberation comes just hours, in fact, just an hour after Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation. And according to sources, the CJP had raised pending demands of students during this discussion. Remember that the CJP has been raising three important demands. Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation was one of them. They also want cases against protesters to be withdrawn, and they also want action against those who allegedly committed violence against protesters. They also want compensation for families who faced deaths of victims of NEET paper leaks. Now, a joint press conference of CJP leaders is also expected shortly. My colleague Soumya Jaiswal joins us from Central Delhi. Soumya Jaiswal, it's an action-packed day. On one hand, Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation has come about. There are reactions coming to that, and also the big question: we don't know who the next education minister of the country is going to be. On the other hand, the government is trying to talk to CJP leaders, and it's also trying to end this deadlock. It's hoping that the protest, the Jantar Mantar protest, comes to an end today.
Well, Vasudha, see, it's safe to say it is not just the action-packed day. Actually, from last 24 hours, what we've been seeing, it has been completely action-packed. We saw the Prime Minister posting twice on Instagram just in a span of 24 hours. We saw the talks and deliberations that began yesterday between the government and taking that forward